Welcome back, everyone, to LPL in English as we return with the play-ins. My name is Dia. I haven't been here before ever, actually, and well, they're very familiar with your face.
Thank you. Yeah, it's obviously I'm Alk. I'm still here. We're still doing some more play-ins. This is the last series, and we've got a guest. We got some special tech here. You get to see more of my office, thankfully with 100% less wasp. Fingers crossed.
That it's not a green screen. I was gonna say I'm gonna place my hand on your shoulder. Look, it's real. We're here in real life, and it's kind of crazy, especially because this is Pacific time, and so as you saw, I took a little nap earlier to prepare for the series, a series that I'm sure is going to jolt me wide awake with JDG going up against LGD. A really interesting matchup, especially given that with the play-ins, stakes are a little bit high here, especially for JDG. We've been touching on the roster all season, but let's just take a look at what this means, what the play-ins means, and how that's going to tie into the overall format of the playoffs.
Yeah, so as you can see, currently we are in the first stage. We're in those play-ins. It is single elim, best of 5, and so far, you know, some mix of expectations. NIP going to 5. I was a big fan of them, so I'm glad to see my boys in green are making it through. The EDG series, I think the most shocking, taking that series against Team WE, and then last night, very quick night. Thank you, Weibo. I appreciate you guys. I'm sorry for the Ultra Prime boys, but that was a very quick night.
It was. And it leaves us with this one last series to determine what our playoffs are going to look like. And that's where the high stakes for JDG start to come in, because this is more than just about making playoffs and seeing how far they can make the run regionally. It starts to become about international competition for JDG.
Yes, and what I want to point out for everybody at home is when you're looking at this, the only teams that are available to make it in are in our top 8. So NIP and EDG are here, as you can see. And the big thing to note is not only do JDG need to qualify into the play-in, so winning tonight, but they need to place better than these two teams. Because you look at their points, they're going to get 10 points at the minimum if they make 8th here in this split. So they need to be able to outplace their opponents or play similarly enough to them that they can make it into Worlds.
I know if you're a JDG fan, the split now can seem a little daunting because it has all these barriers ahead of you in order to make it to Worlds. The nice thing is we get to focus in on tonight. There's a little bit of hope for tonight, especially because historically, this matchup has gone JDG's way. In fact, the last time that we saw LGD take a series was in 2021. So JDG have been handling this pretty darn well since then.
Yeah, LGD have obviously, it's been a long time since we've seen them have the domestic dominance that they've had in times prior, but just to look at how different these lineups are, I mean, Kanavi is obviously still playing today, but Yagao, now retired, Loken, retired, Lumao, actually an assistant coach over on BLG, and you look over on LGD, a lot of these guys are no longer playing, which really hurts. If you're an LDL fan, you obviously recognize Garvey, but it's been a while, and Shadow was one of the main pieces on that LGD roster that made it shine.
Yeah, the rosters have changed so much over the years. I think it's really interesting that the record has remained so staunchly in JDG's favor, and again, there is a chance to change that tonight. But let's take a look at what the roster now looks like for JDG, because coming into tonight, these are the players that we're going to have to focus on to outperform the expectations that they've set for themselves during Split 3.
Yeah, JDG, it's been rough, but look, at the very least, we made it. We made it to the play-ins. There were some worries about whether or not, what form they were going to come in, and I think the fact that they won that last series up against Weibo really pivotal in my mind, because they needed some kind of win, some kind of momentum coming in, and while it hasn't been clear, I think that there are bright spots here, especially Xiaosu, and if we get a high level, a top performing Shun tonight.
Yeah, really curious about what Shun is going to look like, especially because in the series up against Weibo, he did step up quite a bit.
Yeah.
I appreciated the fact that he was willing to play towards top side as well, especially during Game 2. So lots of hope to be given there for JDG enthusiasts. However, on the other side of this matchup, I'm not going to lie, not the favored side of the matchup. LGD coming into today, still, I would say, can push this season a little further. Tonight is very much about how far they can take what they've learned this year and potentially how far that can make it into playoffs.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. If we're keeping it straight with the audience, this team has had their struggles so far in Group Nirvana all year long. They've only won a single best of 5 against a winless WE back in split number 1, but there are pieces that I think people can get really excited about. Obviously, Savior has been namesake for this team, really kind of pushing them over the finish line a lot of the times. But for LGD, it's all about now with a full year under their belts, can these LDL rookies prove themselves here at the last hurdle of the season?
Their game plan has really been coming together recently, and I like that you highlight that there are pieces of these rosters that we really want to focus on to bring clarity to their game plans tonight. So let's actually start with the jungle matchup, and specifically with Shun, the expectations that were set around him coming into the season, and now the matchup with Climber.
Magic. Eliminated from the starting roster list for Invictus Gaming in 2021, and a brand new jungler from Invictus Gaming Young, the team's academy team, with probably as much hype as Xiaolong Bao did last year for Royal Never Give Up. The question is whether or not that will be enough to take Invictus Gaming back to international heights. Invictus Gaming's new jungler Shun just won the LDL with the rest of Invictus Gaming's academy team called Invictus Gaming Young. He finished the series 3-0 against Shu Daxiong in the final with a KDA of 9.2, playing Graves and Lilia, really coveted champions within the meta. In reviewing Invictus Gaming Young's games, probably the most striking thing about them was just how well they played around Shun, not necessarily Shun's play himself. I knew from a pretty early on standpoint that I was going to make a video about IG versus JDG because the jungle dynamic and matchup is interesting to me. I made a video about how I don't think Shun will save IG, I think IG are really terrible at playing around jungle, and then I've repeatedly said also that Kanavi is a bit overrated because he effectively full clears and gets XP leads in the context of a region where junglers generally are constantly playing for ganks, give up a lot of their own XP, or let their jungle camp response timers fall behind. He doesn't really take advantage of those situations. He just does his job, clears his own camps, and allows JDG to win like that.
So, you might be thinking, wow, guys, you got Kelsey Moser back on the stream. We figured out that Shun was overhyped. What the hell does this have to do with tonight? Well, we came into this broadcast and at the very beginning of the year looking at the two junglers for these two teams, and specifically for Climber, he was very hyped, and I think the storylines of these two players really meet in a super interesting way. So they both won LDL right before they came and joined the Tier 1 and into the LPL. They were both thought to be really exciting prospects that could potentially lead teams to victories or be star junglers. And now they have the potential of both finishing top 12 in their first season, which for IG it was a little tougher back in 2021. There was a lot of things going on. I still remember what you did to me, Baolon and Puff. I'll never forgive you. Megan as well. Many things wrong there. But for Climber, I think there's a different level. You're not playing with Ricky and Thashai. Your solo laners are LDL champions. That's as far as that goes.
Yeah, and I will say on top of this, the other part of the matchup that we want to focus on is actually not just the solo lanes, but specifically the bot lane around these AD carries. There's been a lot of excitement, I think for different reasons. I've been really impressed by Savior's champion pool during this split. I was talking to you about that earlier. I think a lot of people have been. He's played the most individual champions in all of the LPL this split. But on the other side of this, Pay's statistically been amazing. And I'm not going to say that Savior hasn't either.
Yeah, I mean, Savior, you're going to look better when you're on lower end teams, especially like kill participation. But I think the eye test, you can see that there are glimmers of hope here. For Savior, I think really exciting to see this guy continue to be a veteran for these for this team. And for Pays, I think having a year like this where potentially you miss out on another international might feed some of the haters, but he has proved throughout these last 8 to 9 months that 2024 one with JDG was just as much his trophy as having Chovy Keen as your solo lanes and Canyon as your jungler. He has been absolutely incredible from the AD carry position, even in Split 2, earning a top 3 finish on our All-Pro ballots. It just hasn't been the same here in Split 3, and we can mostly attribute that to JDG as a whole really floundering.
Yeah, this has oftentimes been Pay's sort of the last domino to fall when we're looking into JDG's games.
Yeah.
Typically, you'll see the rest of the map start to fall apart first, if anything. But I think today, focusing on JDG, like we're talking about, the expectation is that they're going to do well. So, in a matchup that they should be winning, what does a successful JDG look like? What is this telling us about what they want to take into the playoffs?
Yeah, what I want to see with this team is we're done with the regular season. We had at least a few days of rest, and we've finished the roster debacle of a new coach, a new top laner, and 2 different supports. Let's lock in on an identity, something for this team, because we came into this year talking about them as potential favorites to go to Worlds, and now we're having a conversation about whether or not they're even going to make an international at all this year. So what I want to see from JDG, and it's only 1 series, so sample size will be small, is whether or not we can lock down a strategy, an identity going into playoffs. Like, Scout has been suffering, so can we put him on facilitating mids that are going to let him still have impact, but don't require him to be outplaying his opponents? Are we going to see a little bit more out of Xun or Xiaoshu? We had a conversation midway through the season about, okay, Scout obviously is not playing well.
Yeah.
Support has been a vacuum for this team so far. So who else is going to step up? Is it going to be support? Are we going to have someone from support leading? Is Xun going to finally lean on that experience? Maybe, maybe not. Is Xiaoshu going to somehow be a carry top laner that we weren't expecting? I don't think that necessarily any of those have really materialized yet.
Yeah, I would lean towards, or rather I would lean away from the Xiaoshu question, because in a weird way, Xiaoshu has been both the rock for this team, but also in the same way it's difficult to move him backwards, it's difficult to move him forwards. You know, like
I'll play, man. I'll play an impact. It's a great role.
It is. Let's take a look at some of the predictions for tonight, as we have had our talent team come together and give you an idea, as like we're talking about the favored JDG side of this matchup. Because I don't know what this is. What?
You couldn't get an original prediction? You had to put it 3-0?
I was like, okay, these people probably don't know who I am, and if I come in and I predict 0-3 for LGD, they're just going to think I have no idea.
Yeah, but you could be like Miracu and go for a 3-0 LGD.
Yeah.
And then what happens if it's right? Then you're like, oh, well, I could have gone it.
Yeah. Then, my bad. If it's, I think for a large portion of the broadcast, if it's 0-3 LGD, are bad guys. Like, fair enough. They absolutely will have earned it. Nate, if you want to make some of your own predictions, we've got a QR code up on screen, so go ahead and submit some of your own and try and be a little original with it, okay? Be what I could.
Yeah. Wait, they're not even much better than us. I asked you for your prediction earlier today. You had 3-1 for like fun memes. Discord's also there with you, so I don't think I'll rescind some of my flame.
Yeah.
But I still think we could have done a little bit better, guys. I know yesterday was a little all over the place. Actually, the WE EDG, no one was believing EDG to slam, except I had to convince Rafa. Rafa has been our biggest EDG fan all season long, ever since they got their new support and when they started off the season undefeated. And he was like, I don't really know if they're gonna be like. I was like, dude, you've been the EDG guy all year. Just go for 3-0. What happens?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, if you've been doing it all split, you just have to commit. Yeah. At that point, you may as well. Players going to be taking the stage real soon to start the match. So let's start thinking about what draft looks like and what the game looks like for these players, especially as we just came off the back of predictions and we're thinking about what a successful game plan might look like for JDG. How's that going to manifest once we hit draft?
So 2 things that we'll have to take a note of is we talked about a lot of different roles today, but every time we have talked about JDG, it does come down to Scout. Honestly, this guy has been such a legendary player for so long, but talking about draft, I think we're going to see a lot of priority around our 2 mid laners, especially looking at their opponents. I think XQW has been pretty limited as to what champions he can actually have a positive impact in game. So I wonder if we're going to be seeing a large focus on the mid pools coming in.
I would expect so, and I will say Fearless Draft is going to work, at least I would expect, largely in JDG's favor. Because with the exception of Savior, most of the champion pools on LGD have been much more focused into 1 or 2 champions than it has been on JDG.
I do want to note,
okay,
I think part of that is also number of games.
Sure.
JDG have played twice as many individual games this year than LGD have all year long. So I think it's fair to say that maybe some of that is impacted. Like, For on one hand, we're talking about Savior having the largest champion pool out of any player in the LPL currently. 15 if you were wondering. Monkey is 14 for everybody at home. But JDG have just played a lot of games so far this year. So talking about Fearless, there are a couple champions that I'm a little bit worried about, like Talia for our 2 mid laners and kind of hiking it back up to the top lane for Sasa. Whether or not he will actually have access. Oh, we're getting the cat cam. This is part of the new tech.
No
we were
way.
trying to see if we could spot Mimi. Mimi is a little bit more elusive today. She has came and went like the wind.
That's all right. We'll get her next time.
Yep.
Okay. We gotta refocus on the draft. I'm so sorry, guys. Well,
Don't apologize. Everybody wants to see Mimi. Every
That's
time
true.
if I tell chat that she's here. All right,
it's worth trying. Okay, we'll just get it.
Come on, baby.
Cat cam's a lot easier when it just comes with a regular.
Yep.
And maybe this will end up working out in our favor. It should be an auspicious omen for your team of choice. I was thinking about this, with JDG, I felt really good when they're able to pick up Galio. I'm not so hyped on Scouts Talia, honestly. It had when Galio's worked, I've really seen the team come together. When Talia has worked, it's 50-50, to be honest. I don't know.
One of these players has won Worlds. The other one has won LPL. I think, I hope.
I think anything is possible.
Wow. And you got the ad read. They're not even our sponsor. You're not giving money back to us. You're giving it back to the broadcast over there. We are in Suzhou. We are in LNG's home arena. Getting started with draft here. JDG already getting rid of the Yone and the Nico. The Yone in particular, we got to see from XQW be a really, really important champion for them in their last couple series.
I am not surprised to see this ban.
Yep.
Taking the Yone away, it seems like you've just done your base research on LGD, and it's possible that we get to see it played later, but it's really largely going to depend on how this goes. I think taking the Wukong away from Shun also a pretty well-researched pick. Pantheon alongside that. These are going to provide a lot of utility, but I am surprised to see Varus banned this early when I think Pace could have taken it pretty easily.
Yeah, we've been seeing that JDG have moved towards trying to prioritize their mid matchups, especially. And with LGD, are we going to go for a third jungle ban? Because now this leaves up things like the Gwen. You have obviously Rumble that is still up and available. And if we're moving away from some of these other junglers, I think when it comes to both Climber and Shun, making sure that they are comfortable, especially for our rookie jungler in LGD, making sure that he gets a champion that gives him impact is going to be good.
I mean, I know it's a hover, but we did talk about the Rumble earlier.
Okay.
Now we actually get to talk about it. It's locked in.
All right. So, Xiaoxu, I have been a big proponent that this guy off of Renekton and Cassante doesn't look great, but I think in more recent series, he's had to step up, especially for this team. So let's see if whether or not they can actually play around it. Now we get to talk a little bit more about what LGD are going to do in response. The Galio is a counter that can be flexed up into the top side. It's been a while since we've seen Galio top lane, at least this year, but always a possibility and an important champion that you're mentioning for taking away from Scout.
Now it's not only taken away from Scout for this game, but again, because Fearless, this goes on.
Yeah.
I really like the Rumble for a similar reason, because this is a very commonly played champ in the top side for both teams. Now, the Ambessa lock-in does sort of give away where the Galio is going.
I don't like this. We're 2 picks in and I'm already a little sad.
Yeah.
Like, we picked into, we had a good matchup blind. We could have taken our jungler here if we were LGD, but now we've opted into a worse matchup top lane that is in favor of JDG, and now they get the rise into the
You're just gonna freak out.
Galio. This is completely free solo lanes now given over to JDG. I think this is a huge mistake and potentially setting up JDG for at least a strong early game. I mean, Rise gets to very easily push around this Galio, and that's kind of one of the problems you're trying to get rid of.
Yeah, I mean, this is a great pick to lock in third as well. Relatively flexible with the Poppy. You can throw this into support, which, I mean, I don't think. I'm going to check. Nope. Zhuo has not played very many games of Poppy this split. I'd like to see him on something like an Alistar at some point during this series. I'm going to throw that out there right now. I think the Alistar has been one of Zhuo's best champions, especially in the last couple of series. But for right now, at least they retain the flexibility with the Poppy. Jarvan going to be locked in his response.
I'm glad that you called that in, because Alistar is a champion that YCX has completely dropped going into Split 3, which very important with all the spellbook shenanigans that we've been seeing. going into second phase, whether or not we're going to get more AD carry bans. We talked about Pays and Savior being really big, impactful players, so wouldn't be surprised to see things like Kaisa taken away in the draft. What
else are we looking at? I mean, especially with Corki now taken out and the Varus eliminated, we've still got Sivir and Zaya on the table. Sivir, especially for Pays, would actually be quite good because they're going to have the first pick coming back out. Oh, no. Oh, sorry. When Sivir becomes available, that's going to be I think the AD carry to focus on for both teams, because it's in order of priority, one of their most played champions that are still left.
Sivir is much easier for LGD to play than it is for JD. Like, if you're trying to play against it, I don't want to try and play Sivir into an Ambessa and a Jarvan. That sounds absolutely miserable for us. The Yunara takeaway, I think, is fine. Surprising we actually didn't get to see that early on. It has been a champion that I think has been really, really powerful in the right hands. And we'll have to see, is that Kaisa going to be going through? Because honestly, what JDG or what LGD are showing me, we should be going for a dive composition, and Kaisa fits right into that. Yep. And if you're not willing to go for that kind of answer, does the Jhin start to gain a little bit more value?
I mean, it's possible. Lucian, maybe not exactly what I was expecting, but can get relatively aggressive. And at this point, I think if you want to go Zaya Rakan here, I'm a big fan of locking in Zaya Rakan at the same time. Yep. It would allow you to shift Poppy into the jungle, and that could be the perfect answer to a dive composition. Okay,
the Rakan now obviously gives you so much flexibility, and what we're seeing right now from JDG is a team composition that is not only going to be really powerful when we get to those 5v5s, but from the lane matchups already, I'm seeing this as a clear win. How LGD are going to get any early objectives is going to be impressive to watch. Can they secure any early dragons? Can they get some of these grubs? Because it's not like they necessarily even win on side lanes. So I feel like the LGD have really pin themselves into a corner here and have to be able to execute.
I mean,
wow.
This is what I'm thinking coming out of the draft. JDG have gotten great picks in both solo lanes. They've gotten Zaya Rakan into a dive composition, and they've got a Poppy into 5 champions with a dash. I don't think there's a lot that could have gone better for JDG in this draft, if I'm being completely honest.
It'll be interesting to see, because JDG don't actually have a tank. It's just Poppy, and Poppy doesn't have, I think, more tools that are similar to like a Nautilus or even a Galio. So yes, they have a very brittle front line, but Scout's going to have like 3,000 HP thanks to Rod of Ages and all the different items he's going to have, especially alongside the Seraphs. Similar with how Rumble is going to build Leandries, you're going to have access to Bloodletter's Curse, so you're going to actually have a lot of deceptive HP. And what I'm wondering here from LGD is whether or not they're actually going to be able to execute on this really aggressive strategy. Because we came in talking about for Climber, he plays a very jungle purist style. We're going to full clear, we're going to make sure that our jungler is strong on objective timers. But Jarvan doesn't really scale that well with gold or experience. Let's get to level 6, we can do an early gank, let's get some early game action for us.
Yeah. I mean, to me, this composition, these 2 compositions actually are going to be very much based around vision and who gets to objectives first. When we're looking at the first couple of dragons, look out for JDG, because they've done a great job of controlling vision around River in their recent series. If they're able to do that here, if they're the first ones to the objective, they've got a lot of opportunity to maybe take this first game. At the same time, LGD have the chance to execute in the first game of the play-ins of JDG and LGD.
10秒到达战场，碾碎他们。
Rest in peace. I heard some fans.
If they're cheering, I can't hear them.
I heard some fans, but yesterday it was tough. It was tough for Weibo versus Ultra Prime. Those guys were suffering. So, interesting to see for me, YCX back on the Nautilus. He has really moved away from this champion, and as a whole, Nautilus priority has gone down thanks to the addition of all of the spellbook supports. You've gotten rid of a lot of the early tankiness that Aftershock does give you, so we've seen a lot of our different players move away from this champion, and Engage has not been his strong suit all season long, and especially in these best of 5s, you're going to need those kinds of picks.
Aftershock into Spellbook is going to be, I think, really polarizing for these supports and the playstyles where you have access to once we get into mid-game at this point.
The fans agree. This should be a one-sided
Yeah.
series.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
Where's the QR code for that one?
They can't link to a Discord like us.
That's true,
Our
that's true.
Discord's too saucy. So, junglers both starting on the bottom side of the map, but with these two champions in particular, watching how the bottom lanes get active early makes it very, very interesting to see if we'll get any unique jungle pathing early on.
The really nice things you saw right there about YCX and the Aftershock is that he is just kind of able to walk at JDG's bot lane because of how threateningly tanky Nautilus can be, especially with level 2 advantage. JDG do position pretty safely as nice hook lands.
Ooh.
Oh, almost gets deleted. First blood not going to get picked up there, but it is certainly a nice advantage for the side of
A
LGD.
strong lane already coming on through here for LGD. This is part of the reason why this Lucian has started to crop up, the lane bully status you can have, and then later on into the game, playing on mid waves really, really aggressively. Glad to see that Savior and YCX already getting off to a good start, and they still have that heal, so they can kind of have they have a basically about 200 bonus HP between the two of them.
It costs them literally nothing.
Oh, yeah.
They just walk forward and collect 2 summoner spells. And that is as our junglers are starting to finish their clears around top side. Sasu already pushed up right now. Not particularly gankable. It was the way it's already starting to push back away. We'll see what J4 ends up doing.
Imagine it'll be a bit of an angle. We'll have to watch how the solo laners here in particular end up. It seems like for JDG, Scout is always going to have pressure in this lane. And it'll be up to Shun whether or not he wants to get this scuttle on top side or maybe threaten onto the bottom side of the map and maybe relieve some of that for what has been a already tumultuous bottom lane carry.
Not going to be shown on vision.
Oh,
I think, Scuttlecrab gets collected and nobody even sees him. Climber does call this, however, going for the bot side Scuttlecrab, so junglers are going to be pretty even at this stage in the game. And now I'm really curious, what does this look like for Climber? I'm expecting junglers to reset really soon, but right after that, does he go back into full clear mode, or does he go for it?
Oh,
Held my breath.
They're fishing though, because you see this wave right now. Okay, Climber, let's get our recall in.
Yeah.
We're gonna let this go. Oh,
X not going to be canceled for that. YCX does still have flash, burned the heal, but manages to stay calm in a dangerous situation. Retain the summoner. JDG do have a really nice advantage here. Climber is coming in just to cover and make sure that a turret dive gets prevented.
right now, really important to see as, yes, Climber can be there, but he's also like, hey, well, my bottom side camps are spawning. Glo's going to use this time knowing that there's a little bit of a difference where Glo can stay in lane. YCX has to walk all the way back. So he goes into the enemy jungle, see if he can get any vision, any sight of, hey, is there a camp that's up and available? Do I maybe spot Jarvan out here? It's going to be a massive wave crashed here, and at least a portion of this is going to be solo experience going over to Savior.
With the fact that we've basically just been forcing support resets, though, and the state of the wave just a couple of minutes before this, Climber is incentivized to just continue clearing, and the early game advantage of a Jarvan is not starting to dissipate, but I can see it already on the horizon where Jarvan will lose a lot of the early game impact. The nice thing is with a roam up here, YCX could still help secure first blood. He's still got flash that he held onto in bot lane, and he has not yet been spotted. Cheap for Scout right now. Is he gonna find him? Gets the slow. Nothing else.
So he got the proc, because he got the gold that he gets from hitting an enemy champion off of his support atlas. We're getting a swap here, though. It is going to be the Mbessa teleporting down towards the bottom side, so Xiaoshu and Sasa will not have the ability to answer in 2.5 minutes time for these grubs. And Savior and YCX are not only late to this lane, but it seems like they're going to drag their jungler along. Really important for this play to work. Otherwise, Climber's going to miss out on a timer to potentially get level 6 for the dragon.
Shun's here. Shun's resetting and caught on the reset. He's not the only one. Zhuo going to go down for first blood to LGD. And this is off YCX and the constant hooks.
Yeah, really, really impressive. This is a champion that we haven't seen after the addition of all the spellbook supports, and especially for YCX, has been moving away from a lot of the engaged champions. So early start here for LGD. It's a first kill. Not only did he spend this gold, but I mean, that was a little bit of experience. Climber is going to be able to do his blue buff, bottom side scuttle, and get level 6.
He's pinging Dragon as well. I think just to check the vision on it, make sure that at least LGD have an idea of what's going on in the pit. But there's a world where LGD can actually try and make an early play for Dragon with the fact that they've got the gold to do it.
Also have that hero's entrance from Galio available in mid lane. Is going to have much more combat impact than a Rise Roam Warp, at least from immediate knowledge. So is going to be Climber finishing the scuttle. Skips over his blue, so does still get the level 6, and they're going to drag the dragon out of the pit and out of the vision here of JDG. Maybe a quick play happening in mid here with Zwo with Scout.
Be able to walk this out as LGD. A nice double taunt connects, and Zwo takes almost half his HP, and this is all while the dragon is being done. Every second bought by LGD is a second towards the dragon. We'll see if he can go for his steal, but YCX locks him in place. The rest of JDG coming in, and Climber walks away from the dragon. Improper setup by LGD. JDG, that's a thank you for the leash.
Yeah, at least for LGD, they got a wave in on top side that Paze is not going to have access to, but honestly, we've seen this play get buffered before by multiple different players. When you're talking about Nautilus versus Poppy, if you use the hook in the middle of her Keeper's Verdict, you can cancel it and get right back into the fight. That was a massive outplay there from JDG, and Shun punishes LGD in grabbing themselves the first dragon of the game.
I would say that for the lack of setup that JDG put into that Drake, the fact that they get away with it is fantastic. Now we're looking back at the top side where they were already set up for, except for now with Paze and Zwo in the mid lane, they've got an even easier rotation to both sides of the map. And of course, Shun's already making his way towards the grubs.
Until Savior finishes his first item, it's going to be a little harder for him to clear minion waves as effectively as Paze. And more importantly, what I'm looking at is both of these supports not level 6 yet.
LGD want to challenge. Zwo, nice knock up, but gets answered by the Aftershock. Paze is engaged on, has no way out, flashes and connects with the Feather Storm, but enough time was bought by XQW to pick up 2 picks for Savior.
They didn't bring Xiaoshu over for this play, and he doesn't have Equalizer after what he used it on the bottom side. So LGD will grab themselves at least 2 grubs. It'll be a feat that is going towards them in trying to get this epic monster slaying. And mostly for what I'm looking at, you got the flash out away from Paze, and you were able to take something that will harm you in the later game. Talking about side laning and those grubs.
JDG seeming a little bit disjointed on what to do in the face of LGD there. Zwo, I guess as we've come to know from Zwo in his last few games, wanted to go in, and the rest of the team really wasn't ready to do that. It's nice to see the engage, but as the hook lands as well, Paze doesn't react in time to the Jarvan engage, and this fight does not go their way.
Perfect. I don't know, what the hell is this, man? Like, this was both of these teams very lazy so far around the setup. We talked about it around the dragon. Now it felt like, JDG's like, perfect, my time. Now I can mess this up as well.
Yeah. If we keep throwing, somebody's gonna end up with the ball.
Someone has to win.
Yeah.
One of these Nexuses has to explode against our will.
Exactly. At the moment, with the objectives relatively even, I would normally call getting just 1 grub away and disengaging cleanly a win. However, it's not a clean disengage, and with the gold now swinging into LGD's favor, I was worried about Jarvan not getting enough value in the early game. I'd say he's definitely gotten value in the early game now. He's picked up, or helped his team pick up, the 3 kills, 100% kill participation for Climber thus far. And if he can keep this ball rolling, especially into the next Drake spawning in 2 minutes time, this could be huge for LGD.
And also, think about where that gold is going to be, right? We already have 2 and 0 and 1 here for Savior. You now have a Galio that's also going to get a little bit of that gold, and he's going to be very problematic for the solo laners of JDG to deal with in a team fight. So we need to see from LGD's perspective, not only can we maybe snowball this objective, but what else can we grab? Dragon's going to be spawning in a minute and a half. And from JDG's perspective, how are we going to cheat on the map? How can we take a timer here to go for a certain wave? Can we overload on one side? You can see they brought Shun and Zwo to do this, but YCX is matching something that should be the power of a spellbook support.
I'm really curious what JDG's positioning of Xiaoshu on the map is going to look like from here as well. Rumble, particularly strong, of course, in team fights, but Xiaoshu is a huge source of JDG's side lane pressure, not just as a champion, but as a player. And where they have him on the map, what team fights he chooses to attend or not, are extremely significant in the next 10 minutes.
Okay, so he has teleport, his equalizer is back up, and because he has an idea that there are members from LGD that are not near his lane, I don't think he should be that worried about the Galio that is on his side of the map. I think right now what he should be looking for is, let's see if I can push Galio under his turret and see if I can trade one of these summoner spells. Maybe get his teleport out before this next dragon fight.
Yeah, getting a teleport would be absolutely massive, because even now, from the top side of the map, Galio can't arrive at Dragon, and Dragon, as we previewed, is the upcoming objective. Now 30 seconds left on that, and JDG fishing for a play around the mid lane. Could be as easy as the grubs, but a huge engage from Zhuo, and Jun's right there immediately after, and Pays again gets counter-engaged on by Climber, and this time, no flash, no Venom Storm, is caught in the Cataclysm and taken down.
There we go. Really tight timer there for them to find. They knew that the flash was no longer up for Pays. They get his barrier, and this should be their early move going into the dragon. You saw that XQW, he dropped that top wave. He teleported right into mid and didn't even have to use the hero's entrance. So they will have this in time for the Herald spawning in 2.5. Are they going to go for a dive onto Scout? He has no flash, no teleport. This could be huge for LGD. They have no vision of him.
Just barely not having vision as well. They will still get a few plates off this, but with Scout canceling the recall, Zhuo on the way, you wish you'd stuck around for that. You wish you hadn't canceled the back, but at least you get the dragon on top of it. Again, trade of plates as Shun engages into what I think should be a nothing burger.
That's called phase rush and out.
Yeah.
We're gonna get our keystone.
Got him.
We're gonna call it a day. We're going to take a look back at this engage on mid. I think a little too early here from Zhuo. Look at where Shun is. Nowhere near this fight. And Climber, great execution between him and his support. All of their spells go right onto Pays. And there's just no way for them to focus. The fact that Shun even loses his flash in this situation when the target from LGD is the AD carry. A little bit of that sloppiness that we've seen from JDG.
And at this point, Pays has his flash back up. Funny how it happens after the play, but this is really the timer that the whole game is going to revolve around. The game plan from LGD is clear. Get on top of Pays and take him out. When the flash is up, JDG have a chance to outplay, and when they don't, especially with the gold lead and the advantage, at least in the way they've been playing the game over the last few minutes, that LGD have, no way that Pays is surviving. Essence Reaver now picked up for him. We still got a ways to go before this Xayah can feel comfortable.
Yeah, our two top laners are level 11, although on opposite sides, this is an advantage towards LGD. They would much rather have the Galio facing off against the Rumble, and for Sasa, by him going this Hex Shrinker style of build, he's a little weaker in team fights, but it's really powerful for the individual lane. So I want to see if maybe LGD can find a squeeze angle. I can't believe we're 14.5 minutes in, and LGD have a 1,000 gold lead. They're up 4-0 in kills, and they've been pretty competitive already on the objectives.
This is a great sign for the players. We were talking about it earlier, but how far can they take what they've learned throughout the whole year of LPL? Right now, they've taken it to a pretty challenging early game against JDG, who have not been known as early game throwers. They've been playing pretty well in the early game, especially from the last series.
Exactly. So it's going to be Savior using the culling there, applying pressure onto Pays, and seeing if we can get an early recall. This gives LGD premier setup on this topside objective. With the Herald already spawned, and Bessa's going to walk late into this fight. Galio's going to now drop this bottom lane wave as he no longer has teleport. This could be a tight window here for JDG to play on, but you have to catch the mid wave.
That single ward, no vision. Control ward gets dropped on it as well. You can bump away a Jarvan, but
nice
interrupt. This is a very nice play by Shun to go ahead, walk in, pick up the Rift Herald with the rest.
Oh, we're fighting now. My top laner just TP'd. We're doing something, boys. Like, if I'm Xiaoshu, we're complaining. This is max complain meta. Like, I just TP'd for this fight, and now there's nothing to do. Let's make a dive on top side. Pings are going off. Zhuo's going to spot 3 of the members of LGD roaming, and they're going to cut Sasa off from this way. This might just be first turret going over to JDG.
And it should be. I mean, well earned with the teleport like you talk about. You invest that, you get not just the Rift Herald, but the top lane turret. Now you're able to use the Rift Herald elsewhere to crack apart the map. It's a good way for JDG to claw back some momentum in this game, and this could be a better one. In come two, Scout, accompanied by Shun, get countered by the hero's entrance, but flash out from Scout keeps JDG dancing around the edges of LGD. No clear way for the engage to go, but in connects the hook, and down goes Scout. Feather Storm, and the dance pulled back by Pays is going to be used right now, but won't be enough to help him disengage. Pays gets left out to dry, and JDG run back home.
JDG thought they had enough damage. Xiaoshu, I really want to take a look back at that fight. What the hell is JDG doing? They just left Scout out to dry. He's in complete no man's land. And LGD start off this game 6-0, despite some of the woes we've seen around objective setups. Let's watch this one more time. I just need to see what happens. What's going on here? Where's my damage dealer? Like, my equalizer is here. Like, Sasa completely tanks this up. The solo lanes of LGD, I think, are pulling overtime in this fight. And Jesus is too far up. There is not enough frontline for the JDG comp, which we did know in draft.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Looking at this, you can even see Scout step forward, re-engaging into the fight, going, surely somebody is walking up on the other side of this. Somebody is applying pressure, and you find out very quickly that that's simply not the case. Nobody but Scout, on a rise of all champions, is able to apply any pressure, any sort of front line, and it lets a clean engage happen for the side of LGD. Really nicely played from them. And now we're back to a map state where JDG, yes, they've got a Rift Herald, yes, they've cracked first tower, but they can't seem to win a fight to make use of it.
So right now, Shun already clearing most of his top side. It seems like for now, Scout is going to have access to the blue buff, and maybe they make a Realm Warp play later on. I'm just thinking, we have Dragon up. I think for both of these teams, especially from LGD, they're more focused on making sure that they can get control of mid, and then they'll move in, clear out the vision right now. And JDG seem a little lost. They don't even want to play for this objective.
I wouldn't. I mean, Hayes' flash is down. Realistically, as
down
JDG,
items, yeah.
You don't get to win a fight until post 20 minutes.
I mean, they're also just down items, right? I didn't highlight this before, but Savior already done with the Flicker Blade, so he's going to have a lot more ability to dash in and out of fights. Maybe that gives him some more mobility there. And Climber, once he finishes his Dragon, maybe he needs a camp or two. He's going to be very close to that Black Cleaver, so 1 and 2 items finishing relatively soon here for LGD.
Lasu, a little bit aggressive onto Shah, who does have backup from the team and draws JDG down here. I said it before, winning a fight at this point is pretty risky. YCX gets caught and taken down. Xiaoshu continuing the fight, and a nice engage, a nice pick gets caught, but Xiaoshu goes for more, getting greedy onto Climber, forcing a flash from the J for himself. JDG, I said they wouldn't win a fight till 20 minutes. They get a pick, and I'm going to call that very work.
And 19 minutes if you round up, it works.
If you round up.
That's basically 20 minutes.
And Pace wasn't there, so.
So, for JDG, I'm gonna be honest here, DL. I still think this is actually advantage towards LGD, because we're gonna have Otacon spawn in 30 seconds, and while JDG might have prio by grabbing these 2 turrets and their first kill of the game, they're gonna be walking into this objective with no flash and no teleport from Scout. And now from Xiaoshu, they get out.
No way.
Last second, the Lover's Leap ends up taking them both out of the play. There's a teleport there from XQW. If they can control these lanes, I need to see them push these next few out, because if they can't punish the fact that they've gotten multiple summoners out from multiple of JDG's members, that play that we were just talking about does end up in favor of JDG.
I cannot believe the escape that we just saw. I mean, it wastes resources and time, and more importantly, just denies any advantage that LGD were looking for moments ago. Like you're talking about, just a few minutes left on the next objectives. We're still waiting for some items, but with a nice power spike from Hayes, picking up now the second item, Flicker Blade, as you talked about, matches Savior in some sort of way. It's not perfect, since Savior still has the pickaxe over him, but it's as close as you're going to be, especially after the next few minutes complete and Savior gets his next item.
Climber is not allowed to show on the bottom side, and there are wards there from JDG in his jungle to let him know. Both of our junglers fighting. We might get into a fight, and we're looking back at this replay. This could have been a picture-in-picture. I'm sorry, LPL.
Now we get the picture-in-picture. And JDG are winning it of all people. We haven't seen the big engage yet, though. Pace does use the Feather Storm just to get away, as we spoke of earlier. XQW flashing away, but the front line of this Rumble is massive. Xiaoshu, we've seen him in 2 fights now take to the front line, and in both of those, he has managed to win them for the team. Scout engaging on the side onto Sasu, while a nice clean up kill goes over as XQW falls. These are nice team fights being taken by JDG at the right time.
That is an Otacon, and if now LPL, you want to send us to a replay, not a bad time.
Yeah.
Not a bad time for it. We're going to have teleports coming in from Sauce on the bottom side, but that looked like an incredibly split fight. I mean, we didn't get to see Savior deal any damage in this fight. Let's take a look at this again, now with full screen vision. All right, Climber, we're engaging on a Shun. Where are my damage dealers? Galio's here, okay. Salsa doesn't get in here until now. Savior is using the culling, and all of this onto non-relevant members in my mind. Pays just barely able to survive. And then the corridor, I mean, that rip on XQW alone. And Savior, again, dealing no damage here. This is exactly what JDG want from you. They want to put you in a barrel and then just let it rip.
Yeah, this is where, as soon as we see Xiaoshu teleport in, the fight went from good to great. Rumble gets laid down, Savior can't play League of Legends, and they just walk at the few remaining members. It's the perfect game plan from JDG. Difficult to pull off, and even here, Pace dropped to 25% HP, so there's the danger to this Xayah still very real.
Okay, so Dragon spawns in a minute. No one's really near a soul at this point. We do have Baron spawning in 2.5, and what I'm looking at is 3-minute timer here for Scout. He's going to be finishing his Rod of Ages rather soon. They've actually pushed YCX away, so this opens up for JDG to cement their vision control on the top side, in the bottom side of this map. And I have to say, a player that we've been talking about a little bit, but haven't had a huge focus on, Xiaoshu so far, has really stood up to his lane opponent and I think started to push his lead in this matchup versus the Ambessa.
And you can tell the way that JDG are assigning him as well. They've left him in the side lane for so long, and finally, whether it's from them, whether it's from Xiaoshu, the comm comes in, I'm ready. But are they ready to fight now? Because LGD certainly are. He does find the engage. Remember, Pace has flash up for this fight, is playing backline. Featherstorm's in the wrong direction, but still manages to survive. Climber trading kill for kill. Trapped in the Cataclysm for right now. Finally, the rest of JDG get to exit. XQW does find a big taunt and the knockup, and Pace is down. All of a sudden, this turns around. Scout still alive. Grabs another kill onto Savior, but with only 2 members left, can they pull this out? YCX still alive against Shun. Shun finds the wall stun and the cleanup. That was such a close fight, but JDG get the dragon.
Oh, that might have been an Otacon diff right there, Dia. Just getting all of the explosions, gets you that damage, and LGD with an incredibly close fight are unable to get over to JDG, and it grabs JDG this dragon. Now, what we saw in that fight was Savior not being quite there, and that's why it was such a JDG favorite fight for so long. I mean, Hayes buying a lot of time. I want to watch where this equalizer goes, because you have all of these different knockups going over. It's actually splitting the fight and burning LGD and XQW, but I mean, this lock-in from Climber, Scout doesn't get here until the very last moment, but it takes up a hell of a lot of damage. I gotta say, Scout played with his HP bar in this fight and in a very close manner. This could have gone either way if maybe he didn't have a Sarah shield going off, or he's just a little too far forward in some instances.
Really put in a lot of work, even then dealing damage up until the last. Made this last bit, I'll say, a little bit easier, because realistically, Shun's not losing this fight.
Oh yeah.
But I will say a lot of credit over to XQW as well, who on the Galio made it possible to take down a Pace, who had played the team fight very well. Some of the most damage in that team fight.
GD are moving into the top side right now. They have a lot of spells available to them. And XQW does not have Hero's entrance. You can see that Xiaoshu is flanking from the bottom side. There's a Baron here, and I don't think LGD really want to get caught on this side of the river.
No vision on Sasu. Quick execution still available, but not going to be used right now. Savior going back to get a little bit of mid-prio. Not a bad idea. The rest of JDG disengaging as well. So the team fight likely left for a later date, but Zhuo has to keep playing around the vision as LGD push forward for a little bit more. Still itching for a fight, but now that they've gotten all this vision in the top side jungle, it's very dangerous for JDG to walk in.
I love this toggle from our observers there. We're getting Savior throw a culling.
Watch Pace and Xiaoshu. We're looking for the equalizer, and we are looking for the Feather Storm. Not gonna come out of these just yet. There's the Feather, rather the Latents into the equalizer, and LGD are melting on top of it. Savior gonna dash in the back line, not even pick up Xiaoshu, although with Pace dead, things looked good on paper. It was after so much damage had been dealt by JDG.
Can they actually do this, Baron, though? Scout is at a quarter of his HP. Shun's almost full. They're going to get Xiaoshu to teleport back in. This should be their objective. Nobody from LGD is going to be up And again, an incredibly close fight here from LGD, but just missing out on some of the margins. The knockups onto Xiaosu, and more importantly, watching his flash in the back end of that fight means that he is not able to get perfectly executed. We go back into the replay here, and this looks good from LGD.
But the engage is great,
His
and
flash,
then watching the blade caller into the Rumble ult is just fantastic. I mean, XQW and Climber, Pace doesn't even have to deal any damage to them. He just has to keep them there. Savior almost finishing the kill. It looks really impressive. But really, it is coming down to how long Pace survives and where the equalizer goes. Those are the two ingredients for success for JDG.
And what did we talk about coming out of draft was these solo lanes should have favorable matchups. Obviously, we've seen some ups and downs from both Scout and Xiaosu in this game, but look at the gold lead they now command. Scout in particular, up 2,500 gold on his lane opponent, and almost 3.5 items here now. He's going to be finishing that Void Staff, and he's going to rip apart this LGD team.
Take a look at what Scout can do in the subsequent fights. Is right now, solo laning in a way does have backup from JDG waiting in the jungle and setting up vision for him. The Baron empowered minions making this turret an afterthought. They've still got a couple available in the other lanes, mid and top. Basically freestanding gold at the moment. This is not necessarily the Baron that you break the base with, but it'll help you set you up for that in the future.
Gonna be early gold here. They can look for an engage while JDG are split. Shin's gonna go fishing with yet another Keeper's Verdict, gonna cancel out to keep the timer as we are a minute away from Dragon. Now, Dia, if you want to learn how to potentially get your objective setups to be a little bit better than JDG and LGD this series, we do have a key sponsor for the stream. We have prodiff. If you want to get personalized coaching from LTA, ERL, and NACL players, you can improve your game and use LPL 10 at checkout to save 10% for an individual coaching session with a bunch of coaches who we've actually had on the broadcast to help them do a little bit of breakdown.
I'm going to say something I could certainly use, but we'll see. Wow!
Oh!
Like, nice exit being made. Shun, courtesy of him. And now the base gets broken. We did talk about this Baron buff not necessarily being used for that, but as soon as you have the opportunity, JDG are going to take it, especially when they are able to keep LGD at arm's length.
All you gotta do is, let's just use it for the time being. Got another 40 seconds. Xiaosu will not have teleport. It seems like this will be the last wave that JDG will play on. And what I want to foresee for them now is, how do we control bottom side jungle vision here? Dragon's gonna spawn, and that'll be soul point for one of our two teams here. And for JDG, they can make very quick plays because, oh, actually, I just noticed they don't have the Realm Warp anymore. So, it does cut down JDG's ability to move around the map, and LGD, I think a little bit lost because they're also losing jungle camps here.
Climber not in the greatest spot at the moment. Equalizer going to be invested just to catch up to him. A slow jump and no flag and drag may as well be dead. YCX trying to escape through the jungle. It is clear that JDG are feeling themselves right now. Flashless Jarvan disengages, but Savior in the meantime picks up Sasu and says, you know what? You know what JDG aren't paying attention to? You know what JDG never set up vision for?
Oh, JDG! What are we doing? Why are we chasing? Like, the idea is fine. Let's chase the enemy jungler out. Thank you. Yes, prodiff. Maybe they might need use for it. Love is obviously not doing a great job in that instance. But, like, I get the idea. Let's chase the jungler away from the objective, and then we can try to force. But they go all in. We even use Scout's Flash. Like, this kind of feels a bit disrespectful from JDG, honestly. And against better teams, I don't think you're going to be allowed to get away in that situation. Maybe against better teams, they wouldn't be in this game state. But LGD now get themselves a dragon. The problem I see here now, Dia, is 2 minutes before that Baron spawns, will LGD be able to survive the next 5 minutes of play?
That's going to be the real telling thing is over the course of the Baron setup, JDG did get a reality check given that dragon. They should be going back, setting up clean vision, and preparing for engages that actually have gone really well for them recently. We talked about Shuo's lack of tankiness maybe causing some problems. He has been disengaged from the team, or desynced from the team, I should say, as to when they should engage, when they should not during the course of the regular season. I haven't seen that be as prominent this game because Shun is so ready to follow up, and it's a good thing we highlighted Shun at the start of the match.
Yeah. Shun has, at the very least, been playing every jungler like it's a carry. Every single Keeper's Verdict, it's got hands for somebody here. An equalizer is going to come out mostly to clear the wave and potentially clear the way for JDG to take this top tier 2. It's going to be that on that next wave that they're looking. Still, control of the top side, and Baron spawns in a minute. I think JDG can play this low and slow. Problem is whether or not they're going to actually agree with that take.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I don't love the equalizer here.
Whoa!
Did enjoy that. I did enjoy that. And the turret take from JDG going to be pretty nice, even with the dodged, we'll call it in air quotes, keeper's verdict.
Okay, so we've already seen. Here, we'll do a little bit of a check mark here for our boys. XQW, you got the check mark. YCX, you have not canceled the ultimate yet. Darvin can do it. We haven't seen it, so
there's potential.
Always potential, like for LGD.
Yeah. We can find a few more moments. It's weird that Climber really hasn't been keeping verdict at all. It's been so focused on YCX, even around the objectives, but he's made himself a difficult target. And actually, Climber playing pretty well, especially during the early stages of this game, to lock down Pays. We got to bring that laser focus back. If Climber and Savior can focus out Pays, can find a good angle, and maybe catch JDG lacking a little bit, that's where they've got their shot. But remember, Pays, flash up, and with his front line eating the engage, there is just no way Pays is dying. He gets to play the back to front, does use the Feather Storm though, actually is quite low and gets taken down. XQW helps him out there. But with Xiaoshu now re-entering the fight, and Scout, like you talked about, Scout with a triple kill and playing the health bars just like he always has, helps his team pick up the team fight victory, and now I think they're looking to end the game.
Yep, they've got a super inhibitor minion wave coming on through. Just not enough here for LGD. A clean fight, and one where everybody was looking at Pays, but Scout ends up making the difference here.
That was an excellent fight, and Scout pick up on Sasu. I'll be honest, bit of an afterthought. This is going to be a game going to JDG. And while all the focus, like you talked about, was on Pays, I am so glad you've been highlighting Scout through this match, because he is a huge reason, one of the biggest reasons that they were able to escape from this game 1 the early and take it into a game 2 with a victory.
It feels like whiplash, because when we on the broadcast are in pain because of the eye bleach that comes from Scout's gameplay, we are like, why are you like this? Why are you doing this to us? We're fans. Like we want to be singing your praises. But then you look at JDG's wins throughout the regular season, and a lot of the MVP votes have been going over to Scout. So when he does step up, he has a massive impact. It's about finding those moments, and if we can really fine tune that as we get into the back end of our season.
I think you could tell that during the course of this game, I was really on the Xiaoshu train for what the biggest impact in team fights was, the player that we were going to be looking at ultimately as a likely MVP, but I was really converted throughout the course of the last couple of fights, especially with that one that you pointed out around Dragon Pit, where Scout was playing so well to, like you said, balance his health bar, the amount of aggro that he was able to soak with what his team was then able to pick up.
Now, whether or not Scout was doing that intentionally, with the fact that I have my Saras, like, if I die, I die. That's going to be a question left to them unless we get access to comms. But I'm glad that we are seeing this from a player. And again, we did come into this matchup saying this is a tall task for LGD to win tonight's series. They have not won a series versus JDG in 4 years. And for JDG, despite the woes that they've had, they should be, on paper, the more experienced team that can prove themselves here. And whether or not what form we're going to get JDG in playoffs.
We saw that experience come through in this game, I think, because coming out of the early deficit, it should have been a lot easier for LGD to convert that into several nice plays. The fact that JDG were able to find some picks, starting around the bot side, chasing down singular individual members, converting those into turrets, those are ways to get back into the game and really grab yourself a little bit of gold to then take later team fights that I don't think we see a less experienced team make. I think a lot of less experienced teams sort of sit back, let the game happen to them.
Kind of, and really what we've seen from LGD is, I will say, a growth. Because there was a moment in Split 1 and Split 2 where we saw a lot of games where LGD were winning, they made a critical error, and then they kept chasing the bull. They're like, okay, we need to get back in this game. We need to do an overly aggressive play to get us back in. But this time around, they did kind of let the game come to them, but in realizing that JDG are a team that aren't perfect, they aren't flawless, and a big criticism that we had for them was their objective setups. Both of these teams lacking that, and I think for LGD, it did come to bite them ultimately in the end.
It did. JDG's felt like hubris, you know, just going, well, especially in the late game, we can chase Climber because we've got the objective in our back pocket. For LGD, I think they were, I want to call it a little bit disrespectful in a very different way. It didn't feel like hubris. It felt like, hey, we may as well try this. Maybe we can get away with it in the early game, and they just couldn't.
I think generally they also just misplayed a lot of situations. Like YCX is getting hit by multiple of those Poppy ultimates that we noted, but not necessarily canceling them. And then we see multiple fights where Sasa isn't involved properly, where Savior isn't quite there. Like this fight in particular, where are my damage dealers? These guys are still delivering my Uber Eats.
Yeah.
Like they're still packaging the food. They're still getting into the car, finding my address, eventually making it to my house.
Now
But
they're
they're nowhere here.
Yeah.
They're nowhere nearby.
Yeah, this was one of the like picture perfect fights for JDG, whether it be in an even game state or a game state in this case where they were a little bit behind. The fact that they were able to lay down the equalizer and completely lock out Savior from the fight. We saw a very similar thing happen here. This was the one where we were really highlighting Hayes and his play, and then later on checking out what Scout was able to do by essentially frontlining for the entire team, which we saw him do unfortunately earlier.
Oh yeah. Yeah, sometimes give it and take it.
Yeah.
Very strong fight from them. And for JDG, we need to see continued levels of success. Yes, their early game wasn't clean in this game, but I imagine as we get further into the series, as they get a little bit more comfortable on their setups, I imagine this team is only going to grow a little bit more confident with each and every stroke. So what I need to kind of glean from JDG is what identity are we going to see from them? Because this is a very important best of 5 that kind of feels like a gimme. Like, hey, we're going up against a team that is from Nirvana. We're expected to win. We can take this a little easier, but I need to glean or see some attempt at fortifying an identity for them going into playoffs.
And that part of that is going to be shifting because of the fact that we've expended to really specific team comps in a way. The fact that we end up getting a Jarvan, but then Xayah Rakan gets picked up into it, will likely give us a better look at what the game plan is for JDG going into future matchups around like early macro. But the late game fights are going to play out so differently because both of these compositions were, I want to say, hyper specific in how they wanted to execute.
Yeah. Maybe cut out from the draft, right? We were talking about like, okay, maybe you can go for Jhin, you can go for Kai'Sa. The Kai'Sa was obviously banned and we get to see too much. But what were good things for LGD? The early game looked fine.
Yeah.
Like maybe the Dragon was a little misfortunate, but we took a look at the laning phase. Savior and YCX were slamming Pays and Droll early. There were some moments there where I felt like LGD could have pushed themselves a little bit more. And this is the last test. This is one of your last series you're going to be playing this season if you don't win this one. So can we put to use what has been 9 months?
Yeah, I mean, I thought the team fights and the coordination from LGD, their target selection was really good in mid-game fights. I would say that outside of game, their draft could be a little bit better. I like that they ultimately got an identity, but they did give up a lot of their ability to influence the solo lanes. As we mentioned, like super early on, they were giving that up and not retaining the flex.
Let me draw for a second.
Is that? Yeah.
Oh?
Well, it's not what I would have gone for, but what's the argument here?
He had really, I don't say good. I think the word I want to use specifically is important keeper's verdicts.
That's true.
Some of them were myths, some of them were whiffs. The verdict was innocent, but most of them were pretty pivotal to whether or not JDG were going to win.
I want to be clear, I'm not a Shun hater, by the way. But maybe
that's a great way to start.
Yeah, but maybe not an MVP giver for this match. That the Poppy felt more like a plug and play here. You know what? we're gonna debate this a little bit more.
Yeah.
I want to hear what you guys think about it as well. Where would you have put the MVP? Am I missing something? Was Shun the obvious choice?
But
Let
if
us
you
know.
want to support LPL English, consider becoming a Coffee member. Coffee is the best way to support the LPL English broadcast, as the vast majority of your contributions go directly towards the show. A lot of the initial payments immediately go into upgrading the broadcast so we can draw on screen, but a huge bulk of it does go to paying our on-air talent and content creators. Subscribe to our Coffee, linked in chat, to unlock perks like early access to content and the ability to ask interview questions for our on-site interviews. Guys, we're going to kick it to a short break. Dia and I are going to go debate whether or not Shun got an 8 out of everyone. Okay, we're not even debating anymore. We're just going to argue with the LPL people. And when we're back, we'll be here with Game 2 between JDG and LGD.
What are we doing?
Dark Zero in the NACL, and I'm here to break down this FPX backdoor and our prodiff deep dive. Baron is spawning in 1 minute, and that's the objective to play for, and the next midwave coming out of base kind of dictates which team will get set up. FPX kind of has a cheat code because they took the enemy inhibitor, so they have the super minions, which will help them push the wave faster and makes their wave tankier. And Silas, he's down 7k gold. He kind of knows he's pretty useless, so he opts to not even show on the side wave and just goes and overgroups on mid wave. On the flip side, IG has rookie TP to the top lane, and then he shifts down to mid. So that's the two big advantages FPX has going into this fight. They have TP advantage on their mid laner, and they took the enemy inhibitor. So the fight starts really well for IG. They burn a bunch of the enemy sums and ults, but the problem is, since they contested from top river, they never actually got the wave. instantly they start running to the wave. They take the fight away from the TP-less Victor, who's the most fed member in the game, and they just walk the wave down. They know that the game went long enough that winning a 5v5 is not the only way to win the game. They want to play around their advantages, and taking the fight away from the TP-less Victor and into the enemy Nexus is their best bet. IG made the mistake of over chasing into the enemy vision, and they never actually caught the wave. So FPX is actually able to just hit the Nexus turrets and threaten an end. Gala never recalled. He opted to just walk to his Nexus. Maybe he thought it was faster, but he never actually gets the impact the fight, and FPX actually does get the backdoor off. So in the end, it's really important to know what your advantages are in a game and just playing around them. FPX did that very well from a losing situation and actually won the game off that. Thanks for watching. You can check out one-on-one coaching from me and other pros at prodiff.gg. To stay up to date on everything LPL English, follow at LPL_English on Twitter, and make sure to catch the games on LPL's English Twitch or YouTube. We'll see you next time.
Welcome back to the LPL play-ins, everyone. I'm still Dia, that's still Alk, and we are still in the series with JDG and LGD, and my prediction still has the chance to be true. I was worried for the first couple minutes of game one. I was genuinely quite worried. But JDG did end up taking that first game somehow, some way. And it looked pretty good by the end.
It's not just your prediction. Our prediction. We
Our
share a camera
prediction.
frame now. As you can see,
The
look, we even do the swap
people's,
view.
yeah.
See? It's our prediction.
The people's prediction.
Yes.
Yes. There was, I think, a rocky game for JDG, but if I could swap back, I'm feeling a little dizzy after that.
Yeah.
It did use, or it could use, some early game polish. I think on that we both agreed very much. Even in the middle of the game, I think LGD was doing a very good job of contesting for vision. But that was mostly due to, I think, JDG falling short on that front. Against a team that is doing that better, LGD don't get the openings.
Yeah, and I do want to note that we don't typically see YCX in primary engagement position. I think the Nautilus felt really uncomfortable for him to play, at least from what we saw. And most often than not, even with the Aftershock, the Nautilus just died instantly in a lot of fights. And that is why I think part of the reason this champion has just completely fallen out of the meta, at least earlier on into series. So I want to see how LGD are going to look when they don't really have a dedicated Alistar player, when they're a little bit more reliant on Climber and Sasa to get the dirty work done and get team fights going.
And it was interesting to see that change from early game to mid game, late game as well, because early game, Nautilus was pretty good. The hooks were landing. He was forcing summoners really early on. He even got some good roams off when the Aftershock was providing a lot of value. But then later in the game, you're just not really able to stand up to the versatility of Rakan. Now, both those champions not going to be available for our second game naturally with Fearless, and it's interesting to see what champions are still being banned, as LGD once again are going to take away the Pantheon. I wonder if they'll take away the Wukong this game as well.
We're getting a mini cat cam for some reason on top of you. But LGD, I think you're right. Whether or not this is going to be a bigger focus on going towards the AD carries or moving more into the jungle. We have now dropped that Wukong ban that we saw in game one in favor for Gwen. In my mind, this does tell me we're moving into tanks. We're going to be looking at things like the Cassante. We're going to be looking at things like the Scion and the Ornn. Whether or not that is going to be available for LGD. And in the first pick, I mean, JDG, they still haven't gotten rid of the Yone that we saw from them. There it is.
Exactly what I was thinking. I think they were debating it as well. With how long that took, are we banning Yone going into game 2? Are we going to use this on something else? Given the fact that Wukong wasn't banned, I love the pickup here. I don't even like it. I love it.
Why do you love Wukong?
I love the pick. Wukong, I would...
Why do you love the pick then, Dia? You don't like Wukong? You don't like some monkey love?
I'm feeling uncomfortable. I'm feeling uncomfortable.
Okay.
Now I have to defend myself too much.
Yeah.
Annie's been picked. Talk about Annie picked.
Classic Twitter analyst over here. He gets a pushback.
Oh my god.
Get blocked. So Annie will mean that Scout will have a bit of an easier matchup. And just point and click, I think it simplifies the game plan, which was a big question coming into this series and how JDG were going to perform. Can we maybe remove some of the mechanical burden from Scout and give him something that is going to simplify the game plan here for JDG?
Thinking, I didn't even know you could hover champions.
Oh yeah, they're not like actually banned.
Yeah.
It's more like a superficial side of the game ban.
Yeah, I figured.
All right, games, can we fix the client? It's okay. Fearless can be something soon.
Xin Xiao pick that does keep us within the top 3 most played picks for Shun, which is still going to be a quite comfortable place. Do we want to go strong solo lanes here? That's an interesting question, especially because mid lane isn't secured yet. You could counterpick the Annie, but
I mean, Mbessa's gone, so of the top laners that Xiaoshu has been playing, I think Cassante, Renekton in particular are not going to have the greatest time into Yorick early. And if you're going to pick a tank, you're going to be opting into a Scion. For me, what I see from LGD is that they're kind of maybe inviting this kind of play. And none of the champions that they have really deal well with someone that's going to have 4,000, 5,000 HP. So they're going to be very reliant on making side lane plays and making sure that their solo laners can collapse in towards objectives.
I wonder, because of the lack of being able to shred tanks, whether we see something that maybe Xiaoshu wants to play. He actually did really well on the Cassante into Yorick matchup a few days ago. That could be something to look out for here, but they're considering picking him up something else. At least locking in a top lane here, not a terrible idea, and then it's going to get picked up. So Renekton into Yorick, maybe not as Xiaoshu styled as I would have liked, as Cassante has looked really good this season, but we get to keep it for later in the year.
I gotta say, Dia, if we had ministrations about JDG's draft in Game 1, I think LGD have a really strong first opener here. I mean, the matchup top lane should be fine for them to be able to handle. You're going to be playing a rather short-range composition into Taliyah and Wukong. I don't know how Renekton plays this game once we get out of the laning phase versus Taliyah, so they're going to need something from AD carry and support that really warps the game or kind of flips their idea of how to play, because they have a strong haymaker to start, but that consistent damage starts to fall off as the fight goes longer.
There's a pretty nice game to be had here for both Sivir and Kai'Sa as well for LGD. Dealing with the Annie from Scout is going to be naturally a part of any short-range AD carry's life, but both those champions are able to deal with it in different ways. Kai'Sa, of course, a lot of mobility, and Sivir, spell shield, smile.
It's about whether or not they'll actually gain enough space to get that Sivir. The Kai'Sa is way easier. You can go invisible. You can literally teleport yourself to another side of the fight if you really need to. We're getting Yunara banned, so the fact that JDG are not prioritizing this champion is really worrisome to me, because you have such a talented marksman player in Pays. So a lot of support focus. I think this ends up hurting YCX, who has been more of a unique support specialist necessarily than playing our traditional engagers like Leona and Rakan.
I see the logic behind the Corki ban. I don't necessarily think that it's going to be the greatest impact here, but now you're deciding really what AD carries you want to go with. You can defer that decision, especially because you get one of either Sivir or Kai'Sa should you wish it. I know I'm really focused on those AD carries. Should I be thinking about somebody else here?
From JDG side, honestly, I really like Jhin. I don't know why I've been on a Jhin kick, but I just think having the Deadly Flourish available to you gives you so much access to be able to play on multiple different lanes, or at least have that range to be able to interact with your opponent. And I gotta say, nobody from JDG can deal with Taliyah right now. Like, if Annie gets that burst down, if she get that Tibbers and kind of surprise factor, that just means that vision is going to be very important, as we've noted throughout the series. But if you're looking at each other and you're going face to face, front to back, I really like what LGD now have. You have a Rel to be able to slow down the fights alongside that Wukong, and that AD carry that you were focusing on so heavily, it's going to be that Kai'Sa coming on through for LGD.
And I'm a really big fan of the fact that they end up picking up Kai'Sa, especially because they deny the backline access that Kai'Sa might otherwise have to help take out Taliyah. Sivir, the natural lock-in on the other side, it was building up to a, we're going to trade these two AD carries, so it makes sense to see this picked up for Pays. key players in this game, absolutely. I think we're looking towards mid lane, as you were illustrating. What can Annie do? What does vision control for JDG look like? And on the other side of that, kind of like we were talking about Pay's last game, can anyone touch XQW?
I gotta say, man, this draft is terrible from JDG. Like, if they can get the first punch, awesome. But you're not going to consistently or reliably be able to do that on a lot of instances. And if I think about theoretical team fights, if we get locked down onto Savior, he goes invisible, he can ult away. You're going to have Talia, Wall, and her Unraveled Earth, and you have to walk through as Sivir. And then you talk about how short range this comp is, not just the Talia, but how do they ever deal with a Yorick who's level 11 and has an item and a half or two? How are they dealing with Wukong ult, who is obliterating and making it impossible for Sivir to ever stand tall and let those auto attacks fly? I think this is really problematic for JDG, and if they win this game, I have to imagine this is a 3-0. I have to think that if they can overcome some of the hurdles that they'll get through this draft, I don't think anything that LGD throw at them is going to be meaningful.
Especially because between 10 to, I'm going to call it 17 minutes, at least last game, and I'll say in series past, we've seen Xiaoshu largely left alone. And if you're leaving somebody alone with Yorick for an extended period of time, they're not going to get the same value as, say, Rumble was last game. But that is going to have to hold on, because in these next few minutes, we're going to be finding out a whole lot more about how these teams play against each other for Game 2 of JDG versus LGD. They're cheering.
Yeah,
敌军还有
it's for the
30 秒
JDG
到达
fans. The
战场
LGD，fans are not to be spotted
免
here,
岁。
unfortunately. There's one person, I saw them, other fan signs, but it's tough. It's tough being an LGD fan, and honestly, that has kind of been the state of fandom in the LPL in more recent times. It's been tough to root for a lot of the smaller teams or non-Group Ascend teams because they have just less games to be played. I mean, we were talking about it during the pre-show, but JDG have played upwards of like 150-something games. LGD have barely half of that. So it's tough. It's tough to be able to build fandom when you're having so few games, and some of the opponents you're playing against, like an LNG or even an Ultra Prime, don't exactly draw on the same level of hype.
This early sweeper from Shun takes out some vision, and actually will be pretty nice to be able to surprise people with his jungle pathing a little bit later on. There's no additional vision that gets placed by LGD, so his clear should go relatively uninterrupted. And just like last game, we'll keep our eyes on these junglers who can have an early impact, especially the Sin Zone.
Alright, so he is starting Wolves, which does mean that he's going to be able to cycle his camps a little faster than his opponent. And with Climber already going through his red buff, potential for both of our junglers to end up topside, but I just don't see it as an angle.
Engaging is at level 1.
I mean, this support matchup bot lane is really miserable. Like, anytime Rel wants to go in with a crash down, Alistar can knock her up with his Q. You can do that, so you get none of this, and then YCX is essentially left out to dry. And one of the things that I want to talk about with Sivir, and I always try to get to if we can, is that a lot of people have this misconception that Sivir is purely a late game champion, that all she does is clear waves and she can't really duel in the early game. But when you have access to the boomerang blades, especially in the early lane, if you're stacking on the minion wave, this champion actually becomes a really, really potent duelist early on. So if they can continue to make these trades, I think that JDG are going to feel really, really powerful in this laning phase.
That they are absolutely continuing to do. Bounce back into the turret. YCX takes a tremendous amount of damage, but it's the mid lane where Shun, our MVP from game 1, picks up first blood.
There we go, and he does it on the way of his camps. He did 3 camps bottom side, made a trek into mid. I want to watch again how XQW ended up losing his flash. They're going to get a kill here. Oh my god.
Phase does take a pretty hearty chunk, so health bars are low on both sides. Shwo engaging with pretty reckless abandon. Now missing Flash himself, though. Does make this a little bit riskier. This Savior that has all summoners up, the only member of the bot lane to do so, and playing pretty safely, I bet.
Alright, so picture in picture, how did XQW lose his Flash? Oh.
And thus it
Oh, God. XQW, my brother. We can't be doing that. We cannot be doing that in this matchup. But Annie does allow for the enemy team to play with a little bit more proactivity. You have a point-and-click stun before level 6, and then once you get access to the ultimate, it does make it a little bit easier for you to find that range. So a good opening start here for JDG.
And a question will be, how do you convert that as JDG? You've gotten the initial kill. If you're able to consistently deal with Talia in this way, you've answered one of our big questions from the draft. Right now, like we were talking about, that early cycling of camps by Shun already kicking off. Wolves have respawned, and he is off to the races.
To note, Shun does get his early camps, but for me, what I'm looking at right now is double scuttle completed for LGD. So Climber is going to have a little bit more gold. He's a little bit ahead in terms of XP as well. So once he gets down to this bottom side and starts to cycle his camps up, I imagine once he does a second full clear, he's actually going to be really close to hitting level 6. So might make a pit stop in one of these lanes to get him over to that break point just that much quicker.
Quick roam from YCX is available up to the mid lane as you take a deep breath approaching this dragon spawn. We saw some lane swaps happening last game around this timing. Might be coming in again, depending on where the priority lies for these teams around first dragon. With JDG having the amount of pressure they already have with bot lane, you're seeing the early Sivir power pay off like you talked about.
Kaisa cannot, all Kaisa's going to do is just catch these waves. That's all she can do in this early stage right now. Doesn't have any items. Wonder if we're going to be seeing Static Shiv. I doubt it with the prevalence of Kraken Slayer and just how strong some of the items. Item economy is really, really important, especially for a champion like Kaisa. So seeing how an LGD, and where LGD kind of finds spots to get these luxury items is going to be really, really pivotal in my mind. But not too much action in the early game. It was a single kill from Shun. I can't imagine there's going to be much doing here. I mean, Pays has a spell shield that blocks at least one half of YCX's combo. So how LGD, again, can leverage this Sivir in mid-game especially, it is so easy for them to throw down a Boomerang Blade, wipe away an entire mid-wave, and then move in for priority with the jungle.
Priority perfectly mentioned right there as Shun went on the invade. Ults traded up top side as Xiaoshu does get a big chunk. Likely not going to find first blood here, as Sasu does still have flash, but Shun's waiting for him. A dive potential. Sasu backs off immediately after helping out with Shun. Again, flash available for Shun, but Xiaoshu's going to go for it first, right on top of Climber. Shun gets executed by the Yorick, and Sasu, hoping to finish off Xiaoshu, has the Maiden to help him out, and secures a double kill topside.
Shun way too aggressive there, and very close margins found by the top jungle of LGD. Sasa playing on the very edges there, waiting for his HP, and really for me, what I'm looking at, whenever you're playing against Yorick, you have to kill the Maiden. The Maiden is the game changer, is essentially an entire free champion similar to like an Ivern and her Daisy. So the fact that we didn't see JDG focus that turns into 2 free kills going over to them, and you can see how close this was. Sasa ends up using the ultimate in the middle of this fight. And something we didn't touch on in draft, and we'll see the impact of it later, is the Dark Perception. Having that little baby cage on a mobile champion like a Sivir or even an Annie could make or break someone's parts of these fights.
Certainly made this one just a little bit harder. I love that Sasa ends up going in for the heal, and then later on realizing, wait a minute, we can win this fight. He keeps Xiaoshu, the baby cage, in the same place for just a little bit too long. And a double kill for Yorick could very quickly warp this game.
Have to see, he does have Bramble Vest, which does disincentivize Xiaoshu from looking for any plays. LGD now playing a little bit around their mid laner, and what I'm going to watch to see, XQW now having the Weaver's Wall. Can he find a way to section off a portion of the fight? They're playing towards the bottom side of the map, but they're not going to have Kaisa. This is a full commit from JDG with 5 members in topside river.
Xiaoshu is dying to Maiden in the meanwhile. It's a very difficult gank to pull off again. Void Grub priority is difficult to justify right now, especially because LGD know this is happening, but Shun's started it anyway, and Scout, playing point guard at the moment, might be able to keep LGD at bay with the threat of an Annie engage. Climber's not ready for this just yet. Will end up finding his move up intact, but the amount of time that JDG have bought is enough to secure at least 2 of the Void Grubs.
Yeah, Annie just teleported out of this. This is JDG's window to say, okay, we're going to recall. That is a Tibbers that has gone wide. That is why Savior does not get stunned. That was a wave and a half. They are missed by JDG that Annie will have to collect on the back end. Does mean that Savior gets a little bit of alone time, some solo gold there. and they don't even finish the grub. They're trying to invade and push Shun out of the jungle.
Escape here. Whoa. Playing a little gritty with the flash, but will end up having to invest it. Smartly ultimately used it. LGD get a camp off this, but I'd still say this is a play significantly in the favor of JDG since they got 2 of the 3 grubs.
Yeah, and LGD never finished this objective, so immediately JDG, they're going to move into the bottom side. Joe's going to come out of base, fully healed up, and be in position. Whether or not LGD invests the teleport, in my mind, is kind of going to make it, but Climber's still fishing topside camps. JDG are going to get early grubs. They're going to get this first dragon of the game. Everything is going right for them at this point. And they're gonna be in a very good spot later in this game to start to take all of these turns and get themselves a piece of strength.
And I'm a really big fan of the fact that they make use of Scout's teleport. It doesn't just save the late gold that would have gone to Savior, but it immediately turns into the dragon as well. Yes, Xiaoshu is suffering in the top side, but Xiaoshu can suffer for a while.
If this is suffering, I want to suffer some more when I play top. Brother is up 30 CS.
Oh my god, he's up 30 CS.
Look, if I'm suffering, like, look at mid lane. I'm up 20 right now. Hell yeah. Again, suffering from success right now. Is the only relevant DJ caliber you're going to get from us tonight.
I mean, the matchup may not look fun, but the numbers don't lie.
So, right now, it's up to LGD. How can we break this gameplay? They're going to have important item spikes coming on through. Climber's not yet there at that Trinity Force power spike, but I imagine on one item, this LGD team is going to feel really empowered to try to fight their opponents early on at least.
See what kind of engages Climber is able to make once he does have that increased confidence, as Wukong can seriously mess up and disrupt a lot of the engages that JDG will otherwise be throwing. Critical to note here, I'm not going to talk about it too much unless it becomes crazy relevant, but Shuo on Alistair was something that I was excited for at the start of the day. I'm happy to see it picked up now. This could be one of Shuo's best games. Again, we'll talk about it more later as it becomes relevant. Right now, it's the fight over vision.
Okay, all right, there we go. You got to be careful with the Joe Glaze, because he's been a player that has had a lot of whoopsies, not only on JDG, but back on LNG when we saw him play in Group Nirvana. So a player that we weren't necessarily expecting to join this team, especially mid-season here, but past some early game gloves, has been playing okay. Perhaps we're going to take an early trade. It's just setting them up to finish these grubs, which still have not gone down. I'm sure Sun's like, what the hell, this objective is still here? All right, that's free experience.
Let's end up taking out the Maiden. This could be big to set up a dive, and the rest of LGD know it. Committing YCX up to the top side. We're finally finishing off the grubs. At long last, the grub will join the rest of his family.
This is an important spike. We talked about first items. We're seeing that Pays finishes the Yuntals. This was Shun with the Sundered Sky already coming on through, and Climber with that Trinity Force does feel a bit empowered. Maybe if they can time this with Savior getting what looks to be a Kraken Slayer. I mean, Dragons, we don't have really an objective for the next 2.5 minutes. I feel like LGD have either mistimed how they've gotten some of their resources. That is just a misplay.
Or a mistiming.
I'm sorry.
I was just hearing mistime.
I wish I missed a lot of this play visually. It's going to turn into JDG stealing camps, and XQ doesn't even get to touch this bottom lane wave. That is really big. I love the aggression that we're seeing from JDG early here.
Good caution as LGD want to try and cut this off. Weaver's Wall instead takes them to safety. But the boop back in on Scout, and a huge engage out of YCX does change things in a bad way for JDG. Shun finishes off a fight in the back line, finally taking down XQW, but gets double killed in return. Climber grabbing that one, and ultimately a winning fight for LGD.
I think I have temporarily, I think I have the blindness too right now. What am I watching, guys? Like, remember, these are multiple players who have been able to go to Worlds multiple times, including Xiaoshu. But, like, the setup for this play just feels so bankrupt in my mind. Like, we're waiting for Sivir. We have Dwo, who kind of mispositions in certain parts of that fight. XQW wastes his flash because he exits on the wrong side of the Weaver's Wall. I mean, we can take a look at this again. There's no headbutt available for the Alistar, okay? XQW is in questionable spots. They've wiped so much time. This is what we were talking about from Draft. Rel plus Wukong. How does Sivir get to fight? We saw Hayes immediately. He books it. He's out of that fight immediately. And there's just no damage there afterwards coming in for JDG.
That is the tough part. I mean, really nice to see the big rel engage, but like you talked about, the missteps leading up to it, they were plentiful, and that's just one of many team fights that we're going to see. Again, with the objectives next coming up in less than a minute, we've got the next dragon approaching rapidly. JDG were able to secure the first one with some great macro play, but this time, I'm not splitting as much focus with the top side of the map since they've got a little wiggle room till Rift Herald spawns.
Sasa and Xiaosu do have teleport here. Looking at our mid laners, the Scout's going to have not only the Tibers, he's going to look to potentially teleport back. Completing these first items, for me, is going to make or break whether or not this fight is feasible here for JDG. Seems like a Malignance is on the cards if Scout can get a recall in and find a timer. XQW not having that flash, I think, is very dangerous against what JDG are showing.
Savior does go for a small trade, and I understand the feeling behind it. If you can chunk out Pays, you can get yourself and your team a chance to get this dragon. YCX ready for the engage. Climber does go for it first, though, forcing Pays out of the fight. And Shuo playing frontline along with Shun is again letting Pays walk back into this one. Sivir's going to be able to lifesteal off the wave, but up at the top side, Xiaoshu looks for a solo kill out of the tower. Sasu is going to go down. And it's a nice play that ultimately is a trade 1-for-1 along the top side, leaving JDG 4v4.
Okay, so Scout did finish the Malignance. I think this is still a strong face of power that JDG can play for. The Alistar is also great at being able to remove members. Savior is now moving over to the bot side. LGD are not going to be able to grab this objective, even with the trade 1-for-1. Xiaoshu ends up losing out on his teleport as well. It actually teleported back into the lane. So, will mean that Sauce is going to miss out on a little bit of experience and is going to allow for Scout to take over this wave instead.
XQW teleports back into the mid lane as well while we're tracking the cooldowns, and that might be the way that LGD strike back, is using this to then end up going.
He cancels it with the W. Oh, okay. Sasa, this is a good death, brother. This is you might miss out on a full wave here. So that doesn't feel great. But you stop the teleport, and this York will now have this available to them for the next 3.5-4 minutes over their lane opponent. So let's see if LGD can actually use this to their advantage. JDG grab a turret here for Scout, who is only continuing to climb in gold here, and I think really exercising his expertise over the newer mid laner in XQW.
Engaged by YCX onto Shun. Reaper's wall leaves Shuo isolated with YCX, really. Xiaoshu on the other side doesn't seem to mind being alone. He does ultimately get taken down, but it is more than enough time for JDG to come in and clean up Savior.
All right, they got the dragon for themselves. They're not going to be able to push in on this wave. They have 2 grubs. How much damage can it get onto this turret? XKW, quite honestly, pretty useless in that last fight. And for JDG, layering the CC, and I mean, Xiaoshu just died the play before this and comes back and is an absolute raid boss.
Yeah, I mean, Renekton at this stage in the game is naturally going to be quite scary, but it's weird to see him be as effective as... Do you want to explain this to me?
I don't think I have to explain this. I think this is just a jungle taxi. Taking it back to my Grom.
I'm sitting here like, what is the macro strategy for him playing? Realistically, Huber.
How many jungler friends do you have?
I don't.
So you've never been experienced or been bathed in the holy waters that is Netflix and Grom. It's a tried and true.
Explains why he was rushing over there.
Yeah.
Well, back in this team fight, I mean, Xiaoshu lost.
Absolutely demolished this fight. I mean, yeah, it was I think an untimely ultimate there from XQW, who tried to split this fight. This Talia is going nowhere fast right now, and with how much we've been kind of pressuring and kind of looking towards mid lane, Scout and Shun can, quite honestly, very easily simplify the game plan here for JDG. Give setup for your carries and allow for players like Xiaoshu who are already commanding a lead to dominate their lane.
You know, one of the first things that you mentioned when we were in the draft was the Weaver's walls and who's going to get on top of Talia. And in a weird way, XQW has answered both of those questions. He's getting himself into the enemy team, The Weaver's Walls are really just helping that out. It has been, I'll say, difficult to execute. Maybe we'll have a few more times some redemption ultimates in the future, but as of right now,
It's tough.
yeah. Talking about good news stories on JDG, however, Xiaoshu playing very well on the Renekton. Hayes scaling up well on the Sivir. How are you feeling about the Annie right now?
Annie's fine. This looks to be a Rylai's second item, which we talked about how low range a lot of this game is going to be. I think the slow is going to give him a little bit more power. South's getting 1v1. Great time for us to do this casting call here. He's going to take down the Tibbers. Tibbers is not as powerful as the Maiden, as we've seen. Obviously, Bear versus Throne Woman seems like it's fine.
JDG, after throwing their toys at the Yorick, are going to re-invade their own jungle. Looking for a chance to contest the red buff that is already gone. Nice takeaway. And Climber gets out. We're really waiting on the next objectives, of course, to let these teams orchestrate plays around, and that's going to be the Otacon coming up in 5 seconds. Just a minute from then, though, we will have the next dragon, Hextech, on the board. So if the play gets delayed a little while, we could see a split objective situation.
All right, is Savior going to find a recall here? Because I'm looking at something, Dia.
Tell me.
What's going on in the AD carry position?
No, I mean, not a whole lot.
40 CS lead here for Pays. And already has the IE and the Yuntals. This is a massive spike for him. And there we go. We found that timer here for Savior to get the recall. Rageblade Kraken Slayer has to be where LGD finds strength. At this point in the game, if they're not able to find a win, I'm hard pressed to think of an area where JDG are going to lose in fights. They need to be able to win around Savior, which has been kind of the strategy all season long.
And that's going to require vision. We talked about vision being super important when contesting this JDG roster that are relying on things like Annie and honestly a sort of awkward front to back, maybe some flanks from Xiaoshu to disrupt the backline of LGD. It's critical that right now LGD are I want to say invading. They're re-entering the river and placing down some awards that will let them take this next fight.
Oh, Xiaoshu, he's just trying to force right now.
I think he might be able to get this as well. I mean, his confidence is inspiring me. Yorick, a formidable opponent, but against Xiaoshu, it's not going to last long.
Now they can't even make this player on the top side. It was supposed to be a point of strength here. Savior is now down towards the bottom side. Oh, no. Can he get it? He's going to get in range. He should be able to find this kill.
Oh, no!
Ah!
We got it. We got it, but at what cost and what is happening here? It looks like Savior is not the only AD carry just running around on his own. Pays stops by to clear the mid wave. Otacon is a mess. We're a little bit lost. Savior ends up re-engaging on Pays. Might actually find the kill, and the Void Seeker gets spell shielded. Close enough. Close enough.
Teleports are still going down, and this Otacon is now at half. This is going to become a smite fight, and I'm looking at Zhuo. No headbutt available to push out Climber.
Shun waiting for his chance to re-enter. Baby Cage gets thrown out. He is pushed completely out of the Otacon, and Zhuo seems to get out alive. Never mind. XQW snaps him up. LGD grab the Otacon. So much went wrong there. So much.
Dude, what is JDG doing? This is another objective setup where they have free reign. Xiaoshu solo kills his opponent. Kaisa shows on the bottom lane wave. And somehow, JDG are unable with 3v5 numbers here. I mean, we can take a look at this fight. What I want to look at, and I'm going to pull up the minimap.
Tell me.
Look at where the teammates are. He's going to take... Here's a pen. There are 3 members of LGD controlling this side. We're going to get tied.
We are right back into the fight. It's a fight on JDG's side. Zhuo looking for a re-engage, but Shun already found his prey. Climber is down. Zhuo goes for the Hextech flank, while Xiaoshu is in the middle of the team. Pace is going to get taken down by Savior, assassinated by the Kaisa, but Xiaoshu does not care one bit on the Renekton. He is a monster, and he and Shun flank on the other side. Well, ultimately, Scout picks up the last kill. JDG wiped that fight to take the Hextech.
We came in with a head-to-head that was talking about the bottom lanes, but honestly, tonight, Dia, the solo lanes for JDG have really stepped up their game, and I think made the gulf in experience known here. Xiaosu versus Sasa has been Xiaosu favored in these last 2 games, and Scout again showing that expertise. Shun taking control. We thought maybe this was going to be a flank from YCX, but they missed on that Shatter Strike. And this should have been their opener here. Climber right into the backline. And honestly, with Savior, he should be in this fight and dominating. But they get to take Climber out. And while Savior is just ripping apart this front line, it takes way too long for the rest of LGD to get in line and follow where Savior is.
We asked the question at the start about how are you going to access the backline? How are you going to get on top of Savior, on top of XQW? And the answer becomes very clear, because Xiaoshu is running at Sasu, and Sasu's just running away. There's no front line here. There's no peel for this backline. Renekton gets to walk at them, and that's it.
I gotta say, the mid canyon is absolutely insane. It's only 500 gold, but when it comes to game impact, immeasurable, an innumerable amount of damage here from Annie. And we've just not seen this ultimate from XQW really have enough impact. Now, with both summoner spells missing from them, I do think that this advantages JDG. To Leon not having that flash just means that she is free open range here for Jindong to find.
Seems like we'll be doing that in the next few minutes as well. Positioning around Baron already set up, and you know Xiaoshu is looking for the 1v1 bot side. Sasu underneath the turret, and Shuo, known for his early engages, is going to go for one that is nearly perfect. The Goldilocks engage, however, may have gone wrong as Climber goes for the counter engage, and Savior's right into the back line. Scout peeling backwards, does manage to find his trade though. Savior goes down, YCX is isolated, and this fight goes in the favor of JDG, assuming they're able to find that last kill, which they should.
What is Savior doing, man? Savior is trying to squeeze every little bit. This actually becomes advantage towards LGD. This fight was prolonged, it was protracted, and they get numbers advantage now on the top side of the map. It'll turn into no Baron, but
That's my bad.
If Savior doesn't kill himself at the beginning of this fight, that could have been Baron for them.
Does that count as like a good Weaver's Wall in your book, since it did change the fight?
I guess, but like, if that's the quality of Weaver's Wall we're gonna get, just put the Annie in the pack.
Yeah,
you should just be playing these simpler champions, XQW. Yeah. Let's get some Azir games. Ask JDG, please don't ban Yone, please. I'm begging you.
Stop banning Azir too.
Yeah, on one hand, I want to look at a replay of that because I want to just note Savior kind of sending himself in, but I don't want to have the displeasure of seeing a large port, like 80% of that fight played again in front of me. Not just for us. I know it's very selfish.
That'll be difficult.
But for the fans. The fans deserve better.
I can cover your eyes. I can't cover them.
Yeah.
That's...
I can ask my producer to turn off the feed, but that, I think, defeats the purpose. Please don't do that.
That seems counterproductive.
Yeah, especially for an LPL English stream. But we're seeing now both teams start to jockey for position. Right now it is LGD in favor, but you have this Sivir. Mini Wave is gone.
I've seen this engagement before. Shuo headbutt pulverizes here. Like, as soon as he's in the river with somebody else, he's gonna go for it. Already searching. Scout's the one that pulls the trigger on the engage. Climber heads for the hills, pulling out the Cyclone just to save himself. And that leaves LGD with no engage tools for this Baron. JDG know what they gotta do.
And now Dragon spawns in a minute. Really important time here. Teleport from Sasa. There's gonna be Hextech portals coming on through. I think this Baron is gone, but can LGD get back in?
Shun's getting ready for the smite. Xiaoshu on the flank, however, causes a big problem. Paze could be engaged on by YCX, and he will be flashing away. Paze survives for now, but he's jumped on by Savior. Savior picks up the kill, but gets traded out instead. It is 1-for-1, 80 carry for 80 carry, as JDG fight a war on two fronts, but it is Xiaoshu who is winning his all the way, flashing right on top of YCX. He takes him out, and is left with just Sasu and Climber in the pit.
XQW can teleport back into this play, but this went from a Baron that was supposed to be JDG's to now it being LGD's. Xiaoshu's level 16. He does not have Dominus. I cannot see a world where he wins a 1v3. A fight that should have been theirs. LGD clamber back there. And they're ignoring the gold lead that is exhibited by this Renekton.
That fight, I hope we get a replay of.
That one, yes.
Yeah, because this was really, really a difficult fight to track, especially with Xiaoshu doing as well as he was. And we get it.
All right, so we're fighting away from the Renekton. I think a good strategy here for LGD. We talked about Dwo sitting in the river. You are half HP as this Alistar. You have to be very careful about when and where you find your HP. A masterful flank from YCX. Catches Pays barely, but I just think that Climber coming back into this fight is so important. And I don't know if it was a great ultimate from XQW, but him repositioning alongside him, that's good enough for me. I'll take it.
Yeah, this is what I was missing because it was so far off screen. But was the who gets on top of Talia question being answered, but in the favor of LG. Nobody was really able to, even to finish off that last 100 HP. And now LGD managed to get a turret. It is traded for a dragon that JDG secure, but a few more turrets are going to go down before this Baron buff is up. LGD are going to collect a lot of standing gold.
Okay. They at least got mid tier 2. So they're able to push mid. That does go over to Talia. And Xavier getting very close to 4 items on this Kaisa. We noted the item differential between the 280 carries before, where Pays had found an advantage with that early coal buy. And now Xavier, with multiple fight wins, starting to become a poke machine that JDG will never answer into. We were saying, okay, Talia could potentially be that issue, and she has a ton of HP from Rylai's and from Seraph's, but if Xavier can just throw these Void Seekers out, no one from JDG interacts with them. But that requires for LGD to play a slower fight, a slower game for them, and that's going to require poise, which we haven't seen.
Xavier has been laser focused on the back line. Killer instincts, very much saved, assassinating Caleb, taking out Scout at times, but very rarely have been used to escape Xiaoshu or reposition in an awkward way to play front to back, which is almost always about the assassination. So we'll keep our eyes on Xavier as he picks up a Rabadon's for him.
That is crazy. This guy does so much damage. If he can get a plasma proc down on you, you're going to lose about a quarter of your HP, especially if you are a tankier member. That amount of damage is unavoidable here. And there's very little magic resist coming on from this team. Very focused on Climber getting to the back line and even trying to stop some of Xavier's auto attacks, but we gotta say, from the draft, we were saying this is very LGD favored. The early game looked good for JDG, and the saving grace for them is in 3 minutes time. Can they get the Hextech Soul, and will it be enough to mount what is becoming an unstoppable lead, even with Xiaoshu doing well individually?
I mean, it'll be about 5k gold soon, especially if you're able to win a fight, find a singular pick who is covering just around the right mark, where LGD should be able to close this out. With JDG fighting for vision control just around their base, I'm having trouble seeing how they're going to contest the Hextech Dragon. 2 minutes is a long amount of time, but at the same time, I mean, we have seen it go by like that, especially the way that LGD are then contesting for said vision around top side. It's looking really good. Sasu walking up to Scout, could get picked off here, but he knows it. Nice awareness.
Yeah, I just want to highlight for everybody, look at the vision line here. JDG cannot push any further. It is really important with the timer in 2 minutes at the top right of your screen. Can they find some kind of angle for themselves to make sure that they can, I don't know, like fix the side of the map or get a TP flank available for either Xiaoshu or for Scout?
Yeah, Xiaoshu pushing out the top side right now is going to be a big focus for the next fight for myself as a frontliner, and we'll see what sort of engages Scout is able to cook up. I love that LGD are re-entering, re-establishing that same vision line that you pointed out earlier. 1 minute left, and JDG are trapped in their base. The exception is topside, and that exception is getting engaged on. We've got a fight between mid and top lane. And the question of how you get on top of Talia, especially difficult to answer right now as a solo Renekton with no help on the way. That is absolutely going to be a pick. Xiaoshu overextending, being taken down. only 1 minute before the dragon.
Look, he can teleport into this play. I think that timer so important. There's a 7-second desync between him coming up and the dragon being available. But JDG cannot control these waves. The Sivir ended up going towards bottom side. No control of the mid lane. And now we look back at the minimap here and look at all of these flank scores available for JDG here. This is going to make or break their fight. And I gotta say, Dia, they not only have to win the Dragon Smite fight, but they also need to win the next fight afterwards. Otherwise, the soul goes down, but they lose their entire base.
Yeah, losing control of these waves, like you talked about, very, very difficult. But these flank wards, if they win the next fight, it will have all been worth it. It is all going to come down to those greens that the observers just highlighted. And what Teleport is able to make happen around these objectives. Engage on Deshwo. Makes things tough. Unbreakable will gets popped, but fortunately he does not.
All right, JDG, they're just going to give this up. No way for them to move in. They are not in position to contest. Honestly, Dia, I think the window is gone. LGD getting that one of those dragons at the very beginning of the game may have saved them here in this series. Now they can move over straight into the Baron, take over the mid wave, and they still have Sasa with this Maiden. XGW is going to now cut them off. They're looking for Shun. Now they have no way of stopping JDG from entering into the pit and getting a little spicy with it.
Last gun taken away by Shun is, now like we talked about, he does have that lack of mobility on the Xin to actually cross the rock wall between he and the objective. But LGD seem unconcerned with the Baron. Xiaoshu sort of creating an organic play as LGD re-enter the jungle. Vision line so clear for LGD. Nothing past the river for JDG, especially on this side of the map.
I can't believe we're in a situation where LGD are going to slowly cook JDG out of this game.
It doesn't feel real.
I mean, Savior, again, being such a huge portion of this team. He's the only veteran and only remaining piece from 2024 for LGD. Basically rewarding some of their LGD youth program and other LDL prospects. And while Climber had in and out stints throughout the year, this LGD team really needs to prove that this last year in the LPL can materialize into something.
Vision established for JDG and LGD. Look for an engage. It's YCX's time to shine. He needs to find some sort of isolation, some sort of damage onto Pay's Savior, searching for the assassination, but YCX gets a little over anxious and gets picked off. Now it's front to back where Sivir really thrives and Pace is going to go down. Xiaoshu unkillable in the front line, and JDG win the fight 2 kills to none.
There is that poise that we were talking about. I mean, YCX gets completely obliterated before the start of this. Climber, no ultimate. They do have Talia Wall if they really need to get into this pit, but such a dangerous ask here for LGD. Love it. I love that I got a Caster Curse right before the Baron happens.
All good.
It was bound to happen. It's been 9 months. I'm destined to have a few of them here. But, I mean, seeing Xiaoshu get right back into the back line, just start to assert himself. JDG, I don't know what we're looking for. We're here to push our waves, brother men. We're here to push these waves out. Let's use the Baron that we have for the next 2.5 minutes, because this timer is going to overlap for that dragon.
It's nice to see Scout moving towards the bot side with that in mind, making sure that the waves, at least immediately surrounding the dragon, are still there. So let's take a look at this replay and how the fight went JDG's way.
I think it is important for LGD to hold this corridor. What I don't like from YCX here is looking for any kind of engagement. We're here to poke, let Sivir find any kind of damage. This is the flash from Page. It is going to be important in fights to come, but look at where Xiaoshu is. Nobody from LGD want to be dealing with this, and with XQW also losing his flash, I think it is very, very important to see how LGD play out these next few moments, because they can withstand the Baron. And the Dragon, I mean, with Sivir cleared ways, it is difficult, but you do have ways of being able to play the game.
It's tough looking at that as well, because YCX is so laser focused on eliminating Pays in the same way as Savior has been. But the CC landing onto Pays, even just a bit of it, doesn't really matter because nobody else is being hit by it.
Yep.
So Savior can't just jump in and assassinate. That's the real difference here, and it's something that LGD are going to have to correct extremely quickly. They cannot pull off another play like that, not just because they don't have the ability right now, they don't have YCX's flash, but because if they do in the future, the game is going to be over immediately. Right now, JDG have absolutely clawed their way back. The gold lead that was LGD's before has slowly evaporated to the point that it is just a puddle. And now that dragon that you were talking about is coming up. And that dragon still means Hextech Soul is on the table for JDG.
40-minute game. We've had 2 Barons already. Obviously, Otacon a long time ago going over to LGD. You see that JDG are starting to get ready. Pushing in that bottom wave. They got access into mid. Sivir is going to make their lives so much easier from JD Gaming. And how we see them enter, it seems like JDG are going to have to enter through the top side. Xiaoshu, this is very early.
Xiaoshu is entering the Piltover way, right through the Hex gates, taking out the Maiden early. A nice bump to JDG's team fight ability, but no Renekton ult is going to hurt a little bit.
Yeah,
Black and Dominus.
I think the Dominus is really important. Just that ability to get extra health on a dime when you need it. And while Maiden is very important here for Sasa, he still has a lot of tools to be able to play. Look at how they're playing around the vision. This is the only vision, a toggle from our observers, showing what JDG see. Climber, they know he's nowhere near in the area. They do not need to be worried.
JDG have all the information they could possibly need there. Having had vision on the jungler the entire time.
Okay.
Out comes the Weaver's Wall. Splits the team fight really well. Counter-engaged from Zhuo. Just keeps YCX from being able to close them in. YCX gets isolated. Scout still fighting Climber on the top side, and Climber engages with the Cyclone. Immediately exhausted. Into the backline, keeping Scout and Pays honest. Finally gets popped into GA, and Pays runs into the front line with Xiaoshu to try and finish off the team, but Xiaoshu gets taken down. XQW into Zanya's right now, but Pays will take him out, and it's a JDG slow but steady win in this team fight.
Oh my god. Sasa's probably just going to have to teleport out. Scout, does he get the stun? He does. It's a final kill and a full ace for JDG. There was a fight that we didn't get to see. Savior get into the backline. Climber playing a little too much in the back. He was away from the Dragon Pit. It gave a free smite over to JDG, and that was the soul. And most likely now the game. There's no death timers in time here for LGD.
Yeah, we did talk about the next team fight you whiff. Likely means game, and we are seeing JDG have the exact same thing in mind. No chance to play the game, unfortunately, for YCX, and that'll be 1 and 2 Nexus Towers. JDG going up 2-0 against LGD and putting themselves that much closer to playoffs.
42 minutes, and we said from this draft, if LGD couldn't win this game, it was going to look tough going further into the series. They have more limited champion pools thanks to them playing in Group Nirvana, having fewer games than their opponents. And just from an eye test and what we're seeing, there are moments here, again, where LGD look better than their opponents, but execution has not been there, and I think some of their members from LGD are kind of letting them down here in this important game.
I think it is really difficult to coordinate in this as well, because the composition that we saw should have been, from LGD, really good at isolating specific targets and being untouchable with the Talia, when realistically, because of the way that mid-game went for JDG, I think LGD really felt like they had to be the ones moving forward, trying to take engages, and Talia didn't have the chance to play at a distance.
I think a very perfect, like, I guess, package of how that happened, or maybe the feeling that you're describing, is just watching Savior throughout this game. Like, the first 25 minutes, he's ulting forward on any individual target and trying to squeeze a kill. I don't think that's necessarily right, and we saw that multiple times. He would go down and trade for it, and it becomes a trade that's favorable for JDG. I don't know if maybe LGD are feeling a little nervous. It obviously is potentially their last series of the year, but I expect a little bit more from especially a player like Savior. And I'll be honest, the mid gap was kind of disgusting this game.
You're liking Scout this series. You were talking about him a lot in Game 1 on the Rise. This Annie game got a lot of credit from you as well. Yep. I mean, it is clear that he's outputting not only a lot of damage, but a lot of utility for the team in this fight, especially in that last Dragon engagement, where he was tracking Climber the entire time.
Yeah, I want to say Scout is playing well, but I think his opponent is not. Like, it's a battle of two things. Like, two things can be true at the same time, and XQW has not been a player that has been super consistent throughout the year. Most of the time when XQW has played, he's had really, really hit or miss games. I think of his Yone as one of his best champions, but there have been times on Azir, on Rise, where he has made, in my mind, game-losing plays for his team. And while there isn't one moment that I can maybe pinpoint here for his Taliyah, I think the lack of impact is something that XQW and the rest of LGD are going to be feeling in this game.
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing for them, they can't draft it again. I am going to be happy to see
Yeah,
that.
true.
Yeah, maybe the Yone gets picked up. I would really like to, especially if this is going to be LGD's last game of the year. Selfishly like to see the Yone be picked up because it is something that is so signature to their mid laner. And you really don't see that many other places. A lot of times, players with specialties like that, it is easy to take them out, but we did see JDG considering, hey, are we going to let XQW have this, or what? And maybe for Game 3, they let them.
Yeah, it's tough when you have kind of specific champion specialists, especially in Fearless Draft. You don't get access to very many champions, and usually in best of fives, you're going to have a lot of time to be able to scale. LPL Gold Graph of all time, LGD get back in, but are unable to close out this second game. It's a matter of experience and really the difference in the solo laners. Now, Salsa has been, I think, a little bit better than his mid lane counterpart, or his mid laner on his team, but Xiaoshu has just absolutely stepped up. He's embodied a lot of the problems that JDG have had in Split's past and really rose to the occasion so far to be a guy for this team.
I just want to be super clear about this because I know we're approaching MVP time. Especially after this game.
Oh, it's Sean MVP, of course.
Oh, no, not again. I mean, it very well might be, based on whatever happened in Game 1. But Xiaoshu looked so good on the Renekton this game and really helped a lot of the early, I'm going to say like early mid-game team fights go JDG's way.
I'm watching this fight. YCX was actually about to get over the wall, but the wall bounces him back into his enemy team. And then, like, here, I get it. Again, YCX looking for an engage. It was actually a really clean fight started here for LGD. Just, I don't know. I'm coming to grips with the fact that while we have been excited for LGD all split long again, LDL champions in jungle and the mid, and the rest of the team being relatively high performers throughout all of 2024 in that developmental league, I don't necessarily think that we've gotten a development from every player. Again, progression is not linear, right?
Yeah.
Not everybody's going to take the same path. Obviously, Savior being a veteran on this team, and you have Meteor in the background as a famous LPL player trying to help Climber, but I think we haven't necessarily fixed a lot of the issues that XQW has had all year long, and other players have stepped up, but mid lane is an incredibly important position in competitive.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you're using, we have been excited about them. I think we can still be. It's difficult in this specific best of 5 to be looking down the barrel of a 3-0 and going, I'm really excited for this. But the development of the roster, like you talked about, being non-linear, I think that this is still a team that has shown some really interesting and nice moments throughout this series alone, because the early game went really well for them in Game 1. The mid-late game went really well for them in Game 2. They aren't able to put these pieces together. They aren't able to close out games because of them. Being able to find advantages like that against JDG, even a JDG that maybe hasn't been in peak form this split, is still something to be really proud of in your first year out of LDL.
Agreed. This last fight we didn't get a replay of because it was basically the end of the game, but really strong vision control from JDG, from Scout as well, playing Human War to find Climber. He never got into the pit. It opens up the Hextech Soul, and like we said, you take that Hextech Soul, if you win that fight, imagine the game has to end within the next few moments afterwards. So, MVP, I agree, Xiaoshu probably has earned himself. I could see a Scout. Could see a Scout MVP too.
Could see a Scout. I think that Scout was kind of robbed in Game 1 of that, so I wouldn't be too upset about seeing it. And he has been really good, especially about with these mid laners that bring a lot of CC to the table, at actually controlling the fight in the way that you would expect and hope for.
All right. Pocket Sand Shun. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, shoot.
There we
W.
go. I was very, very worried there. I know we both were.
Yeah.
We were like, oh.
Yeah.
But Xiaoxu does earn it. A very impressive performance, not only in the Renekton, but this entire season, joining JDG here in split number 3. Unsure, considering he was coming off of the Royal Never Give Up team that got completely eliminated from LPL and relegated down into the LPL. So glad to see that it is working out for him, and another playoff berth potentially on the cards here if they can win one more game.
Yeah, I mean, he has really been a rock for the squad, and I think we've got a lot to look forward to from him, not just here, but again, with the third game on the horizon, potentially in playoffs as well. He's on the come up and actually put on some carry pants there in this second game. We'll find out what happens in the third. Will Xiaoxu come back? Will we see Scout maybe grab an MVP? Will we see LGD take a game? We'll find out after this. welcome back to the LPL play-ins in Split 3. I'm still Dia, that's still Alec, and we've still got a game on our hands with JDG and LGD. I don't know how many more games we will have in our hands, because this very well could be the last one, and if we're following the diagnosis from last game, should be, because LGD very well could have taken game 2, and it slipped through their thingy tips. 3-0, by the way. Yeah, this series was one that I don't think a lot of people expected LGD to be winning, and for good reason, but I think they've shown a lot of fight now.
Yeah, I think fight is a word I would use.
They fought.
They definitely.
They're fighting. They could win this game. It could still be.
They are legally, yes, by definition, they can win this game.
Yeah.
The probability I would give that is somewhere probably in the 30 to 40% range. I mean, maybe higher than some other people who've been watching the series so far, but always got to be a little bit hopeful. And with what JDG have shown, they're not impervious. They're by far not the cleanest team that we have here in the play-in. So, again, as per usual with any Group Nirvana team, anything is possible. Magic is possible in these series.
Yeah. The JDG are doing this for more than just the chance at playoffs. The stakes are a little bit higher for this squad, and they're polishing up for a playoffs that is going to need to be, maybe not perfect, pretty near perfect in order to get them to Worlds. That's a spooky gun to be staring down the barrel of.
Yeah.
As we jump into the draft, LGD once again going to be on blue. JDG taking away the Azir. Big question for me is whether they take away the Yone.
Okay, let's see it. 3 games in a row. These bans have been rather similar here for JDG. The Nico and the Yone we are expecting on 3 here. LGD, though, are they going to keep their bans? And really, what is their first pick priority going to be here? Because in my mind, I would like to see them prioritize trying to get a very comfortable champion. If you're getting rid of the Braum, in my mind, this does mean that we are kind of looking towards maybe... I'm trying to think. You're trying to disincentivize a champion like Ornn. Maybe you're looking to get a more abusive matchup for Sasa to take control of, but he has not really been a player in my mind that tries to squeeze in that way.
Looking at with Rel and Braum, will taken away.
Oh,
Leona, another possibility for LGD, and yeah, we don't ban the Yone. I think this is the part of a problem for LGD is now that it's not banned. I mean, do we take it immediately? Do we take it first base?
Oh, hell yeah. Look, we're going to get Yone for XQW. We're going to most likely pick up a Sejuani. I wonder if JDG are going to look to take this champion away because it has been such a potent pairing with XQW and this Yone. And it's a very clear tank jungler that Climber can pilot. I think it makes the game plan very, very easy, which is exactly what we need from our teams. Yeah, I don't need you to be reinventing the wheel here. You just got to find wins, and sometimes you got to keep it stupid simple.
Yeah. The Aurora and Yunara lock-in on the other side. I haven't really seen the Aurora pop up even in the bans, but I do know this is something that both Scout and Xiaoshu can play. Likely going to be going to Scout, if I'm honest.
Yeah, Xiaoshu only getting a single game on it during one of their series going into the end of the season. So with a lot of the different the different matchups that Aurora usually is good in mid gone, like you're saying, doubt it's going to be there. So Udyr, a pocket pick here for Sasa that we have seen all year long. Kind of pulling it out here. Xiaoshu doesn't have too many champions. I mean, again, I talked about Cassante and Renekton being his best all year, but you don't really want to play Cassante into new Udyr, and look, they're going to try and get away with this with a Trundle. Trundle has massive value here, but is he going to be able to withstand the engage coming in from a Yone? From even an Udyr who's going to eventually walk him down. Yeah,
you are going to need some other sort of front line, some other sort of crowd control I'd add if you are going to be giving Trundle over to Shun. Looking for what the mid-jungle matchup is going to be off of this as well, or rather, because we have Aurora, what Trundle's interactions with the mid-jungle matchup are going to be, because right now Trundle is course, really going to be nice in the jungle for dueling.
Yeah.
But once he shows up in mid lane, this does feel a little bit more defensive than offensive against somebody like a Yone, who has an easier time escaping.
I can tell you've never been pillared in mid lane.
Yeah.
That is a disgusting ability. I've been pillared way too many times in mid lane, and it is the fact that you're not able to jump over it in a lot of instances, very, very difficult. A lot of top lane counters here for Xiaoshu, expecting him to go towards the Jace or the Aatrox. I like the Aatrox in particular. What are we going to get in my mind, honestly, I'd like him to actually maybe save his pick until 5. You do know the matchup, but seeing what support they have does kind of change what flavor of top lane we might get.
Hey,
I hope Paze isn't paying Leona.
I'm sorry, for sure. It's
sorry. I know.
Oh, I hope not. Sorry, taking this away for Zhuo is also technically a takeaway from YCX. We haven't seen Zhuo play Leona nearly as much as YCX has this split, so pushing YCX a little bit lower down on the priority list.
So all of the engaged supports are gone, and YCX has been a range support enjoyer. That's why we saw the Renata gone. We saw him play an early Seraphine. We are getting Taric back in. Now, not the first time we've seen Taric this year, but we have started to see a little bit more play. We saw at the beginning of play-ins in that Game 5 between FPX and NIP. And if JDG are going to play a low and slow, kind of low-range composition that has to walk into you, Taric is going to absolutely obliterate this.
Taric kind of slaps, and Taric with Sejuani and Udyr, Taric with Yone. There is a lot of potential for this support pick. I didn't see it coming, but I'm very, very glad it's caught me by surprise. Answer on the other side is going to be Jax for Xiaoshu.
Right.
This could solve a lot of problems. Jax, very strong, but...
Yeah. Jax is very good into both solo lanes here that LGD are showing. Talking about the laning phase, I do think that LGD are going to be able to find windows to be a little bit more proactive. We need to see how XQW and Climber end up interacting with each other. But when I look at bottom lane, I gotta say to you, level 1, level 2, they actually can play very, very aggressively into Paze and Zhuo with that stun that Taric does have available, and Valkyrie being an incredibly powerful tool that Corki has, especially early on. So will we continue to see Savior and YCX actually slam Paze and Zhuo in the laning phase? And a bigger question is that going to matter in this game?
It's really difficult to pinpoint what exactly is going to matter enough for LGD, because they've had early game successes, they've had mid game successes, they've had even some late game successes, but they've never been able to chain those sequentially into a win. So when does mattering cross the threshold? When do LGD convert from an advantage into a win? This is their last chance of the night to do so. If they aren't able to find and abuse an advantage here, they will be going home for the year. JDG, on the other side, have a chance to secure their spot in the playoffs. Game 3 right here, right now.
欢迎来到英雄联盟。敌军还有30秒到达战场。
There are JDG fans. Still waiting for the LGD fans. I was really sad because we have a fan that has been interacting with a lot of the broadcast. Alpaca or Cindy. She's been great with helping us. We met her at MSI and she kind of helped us with moving some merchandise around and also helping out some of the fan stuff. But she's over in China now, and they've unfortunately never panned to her. Both today and yesterday. I was really looking out during the Wave of Ultra Prime series, but fortunately we didn't get to see her there.
Unlucky, but
yeah,
maybe better luck next. Better luck. There've been crowds.
Oh, we're getting more Spellbook Sejuani. This has been creeping up. As again, Spellbook got buffed a few patches ago, and we're continuing to see the exploration. I think it makes Climber really, really dangerous in the early game, because now you can invade Shun with Ignite or Exhaust, and there's nothing he can do versus you if you can gain priority with one of these solo lanes.
Especially against a Trundle, you will take every bit of fighting prowess you can get in the early game. Engage from Schwo, immediately countered. Thus is the power of the Taric, and Schwo has to flash out at level 1.
This is why you never want to be able to be in this situation as a Leona. Like, Taric is always going to counter you. He's going to have that shield, and then you're playing into early game Corki. Level 1 Corki is one of the most disgusting lane bullies. And how they even get the cleanse out from Pays, and I gotta take a note of this. Look at where the junglers are heading down. They are moving in this direction.
Yeah, we are burning summoners on cooldown, and it's no wonder we're attracting attention. In fact, the junglers may not even get here before we get some kills. Stun's not going to land. YCX flash from Pays to secure first blood, and Savior may go down as well. Flash from him into the cleanse. Savior manages to stay alive, gets shut down by Schwo. It is a bloodbath in the bot lane.
And the wave is pushing in favor of them, so this is going to be a huge amount of golden experience that is missed by LGD, especially for Savior. He barely hits level 2 in the middle of that, and that was the advantage that JDG were playing around. Junglers are still heading down here, and that is a raw solo kill from Scout.
Solo kill from Scout, early wave push, and the kills from JDG in the bot lane. This is solving a lot of the draft issues. This is slowly but surely doing it. We were worried about what the Taric would mean, but the counter engage doesn't go their way.
Just this right here, I love the distance and the difference in where Pays and Dro are playing. It makes it hard for YCX to properly put down that Cosmic Radiance and get those stuns down. Yes, it's the Summoner spell, and you do trade that from both of the AD carries, but in mid lane in particular, this was a champion that we've been waiting all series long here for XQW, who has played this champion to perfection in other series. This is not the time to be faltering in that mid matchup.
And in strong, hold that thought. Stun gonna connect. In a strong juxtaposition to what happened bot lane, no summoners were burned from Scout to secure that 1v1 win, and XQW burned both of his.
If XQW had Q3 on that last trade in mid, maybe they kill Scout, at the very least force another summoner spell, but he just TP'd back in. He's already pretty low. Scout has to play a little bit more respectfully here, because Trundle's on the bottom side of the map, and with this wave pushing away from XQW, Yone knows, I cannot be on this side. I have to be able to give up this wave.
Scout doesn't have vision on top side. He was just going for that, knowing that in all likelihood, Climber is too far away to help. JDG can pull off a small freeze in the bot side as well, just draw LGD a little closer to their side of the map. Xiaoshu up here is the only lane that we haven't seen action in just yet. It's been a nice chill time for both of these top laners. Trading farm, trading blows, but not too much action up there until the first item break.
Oh yeah, it's Udyr Jax. Like, if Udyr tries to trade into him, he just completely blocks it with the Counter-Strike. I'm glad that for our producer and for our observers back in China that they don't have to deal with what was Cassante Udyr for the longest time, one of the worst top lane matchups to watch. So it's going to be a pretty large wave bouncing away from Pays and Dro, and watching how maybe we get a little bit more action. But honestly, with how this is already kind of laid out, I think that LGD are going to feel maybe a little less inclined to move in and try to find angles.
Electrocute proc from Scout not going to go off this time, so XQW does get to keep his health bar. But check out the zoning that JDG have on LGD in this bot side. Complete control of the wave for Pays and Zhuo. And it's turned into a pretty casual game for Shun as well. We finally got the Infernal Dragon available, but completely unbothered. Xiaoshu jumping forward, doesn't quite get the kill.
Alright, that's the Grandmaster's might, really important there. Xiaoshu's gonna push out this last wave, probably just retreat back to his turret. But what I want to note is the experience differential between our two AD carries. It's quite massive. Right now it is being built back up here by Savior because he catches this large wave, but depending on how this mini wave looks when we go back and pan towards bottom lane, Pays is gonna hit level 5, he's gonna be in a really strong position, and if we're talking about bottom laners, by extension, looking at these two supports and how quickly they can hit level 6 can be a game changer.
Big field mid lane. You may see a stun come through.
Oh my god. Wow, that is incredibly close there.
Nice job to get away from Scout. Do not see that every day. Shun going for the Scuttle Crab, however, is a little bit risky as a result. He's completely lost mid lane priority. He Climber, knowing that, going to be able to push him out just fine. Savior did try and get a little too close to the Scuttle Crab himself. Takes a chunk. But LGD still managed to secure the Scuttle Crab.
Let's take a look. What's going on here? What's this?
Drawn over it.
I'm getting old.
It's the Ignite. It's the Ignite. I got you.
You're never fighting a Trundle as Trundle if you're playing into Ignite. Like, that is part of the strength of this spellbook, and we got to see a little bit from our supports. YCX teleporting back in. Gonna hit level 6 before his counterpart here. That Grub spawning in 40 seconds. Where and how our supports find experience in these next upcoming moments is going to be pivotal to whether or not they're going to have it available for one of these objective fights.
Be tracking it over the next couple minutes, especially with Xiaoshu just having backed. Normally you'd see him start to rotate bot if they were going to pull off a lane swap, but he's not hitting one of those. Instead, mid lane belongs to Savior and YCX. Pays and Shuo are still hanging out on bot side. That unfortunately means nobody's going to be really ready as Grubs spawn from the side of JDG.
Alright, Shuo just showed on bottom side. He has teleport thanks to his spellbook. Probably going to teleport into mid lane as we see now. YCX needs to sit on this mid wave because he is so close to hitting level 6. That Cosmic Radiance is going to make or break this fight. But I'm looking at Savior. He is late. LGD are going to have to make a late entrance into this objective, if at all. And it seems like they do want to fight this. They have some pretty important ultimates coming through.
Confirmation, YCX has hit level 6. Ultimate available, Shuo. Waiting for a pickoff right now. We'll see if LGD decide to contest this. You have to imagine that they will. Fate is going to start early autoing onto Climber, looking for a safe place to be. Fate Seal going to connect, but the stun will not. YCX pops the Cosmic Radiance, keeps himself and the team alive, but JDG now put him in the pressure cooker. No way to escape from Aurora, and JDG claim 3 quick kills.
And they get all of the grubs. This is incredibly problematic now for LGD in a fight that had to be played incredibly carefully from their side. They're letting Pays free fire and build up all those Unleash stacks. Even the ultimate from YCX, I think, not getting as much value. A single auto attack away there and an amazing counter strike from Xiaoshu keeps him alive. But think about this team now, Dia. Like, Grubs, all 3 Grubs on Aurora and Jax. They are going to rip apart these side lanes. I mean, look again at how this fight starts. It's a ultimate from Climber that nobody can take advantage of. XW eventually finds this ult, but the timing on it just completely whiffed. And the Cosmic Radiance only onto 2 members. This is not what we wanted from the Terror, and an amazing fight from JDG.
And in the very small time that XQW was kept immortal, or functionally immortal, nothing got done.
Yeah.
No damage was realistically dealt by the Yone. I'm going to call it maybe 700 HP. And then all of a sudden, you can't leave. Scout pops the ult on top of everyone, and JDG get to in close range with the Trundle, Jax, and Yunara have their way with you.
By the way, remember, this game started with them being 3-1. This entire start. So JDG already had the Feats of Warfare. Now they get the first objective. They have their bottom lane in position to move if they need it. This is a really interesting lane allocations. JDG are deciding to put this Yunara and Leona in mid lane, while JDG are trying to move away from having Jax in a very powerful spot, but it requires for Savior and YCX to be up in top side, which allows for JDG to have a little bit more say and decision power of whether or not we want to move into top side and get vision, help out our Jax, or leverage some of the strength of Aurora, who will have ultimate coming up now. Do we want to play for this dragon now?
The dragon was really what was standing out to me as you illustrated this, but watching Shuo move up towards the top side, it does seem like the defense of the turrets is taking precedent over anything else. Climber pops in here just to see if they can fish for a dive onto Xiaoshu, but now that Shuo is here, this dive must be impossible, and that's without even knowing that Shun is waiting just a screen away.
Looks like they're going to call it off. Instead, let's just get the wave in. They know that Pays is moving on forward.
Pays has flash and cleanse.
Oh.
Saves the flash and the cleanse. This got kind of cold.
Yeah. Uses his ultimate, which gives him the dash alongside those potion steps. So just completely saves his ability. That's really smart play, and Hayes is an incredible duelist now. Kraken Slayer completed for this Yunara in a very strong position. You can start to see those item completions come through for JDG. Trinity Force finished for Jax. Trinity Force soon to be done here by Shun after one more camp. It looks like he is pulling the dragon now. And because they know they got mid-prio, JDG get to have their pick of the litter and play for whatever objective they want.
No worries about this, and I'm glad they took it slow as well, because imagine had JDG rushed down here and not prioritized Xiaoshu's safety, they would have lost first turret. Instead, they get to keep first turret, keep Xiaoshu alive, turn it into a dragon as well. JDG are getting everything they asked for and more.
Oh, they get the teleport here from Sasa. Scout has just been wailing away at the turret. 3 grubs just makes it so simple for JDG. Incredibly easy for them to find picks. There's the ultimate here from XQW, so I can't imagine there's going to be a real fight. And now, LGD with no jungle camps that they can play for, and a lot of vision here from JDG. They can make whichever plays they want, and they feel really empowered that they're going to be able to get a lot more.
Meanwhile, Climbers chilling bot side, can do absolutely nothing. Scout locks XQW in here for just a second before ultimately the splash out, but this is not a winning situation for LGD, especially with the fact that, yes, the play didn't net them anything. LGD, ooh.
Agreed. Let's get the highlighter on here. No little bros. I like these guys. Correct.
These guys, I suspect the people who voted in this poll may have been watching the series.
You know, the people who also probably voted also are currently watching the series. That is highly likely.
That's powerful. That's extremely powerful.
I know.
I mean, this is really looking so handily JDG favored, and in a situation where they do not have the draft issues that they had last game. Early game has gone their way, the objectives have gone their way, the composition is good, and doesn't have functional problems with LGD.
To be fair, also, JDG, they got a little bit of house money they can play with. Like, they've got at least 2 games they can faff about and kind of do whatever they please. While up to LGD, this is essentially a best of 1 from the rest on here. Every single game has to count if they want any chance of having a postseason here. So, you have the Herald spawning in 50 seconds. Can LGD find any possible play here? They don't have a teleport from Sasa. This is tough.
I mean, it makes me so sad to watch what just happened as well. Climber sitting around the mid wave. Scout having just taken top wave turret. I mean, maybe this is the play. XQW flashes for this. Climber does eventually find his own ultimate, so Scout will go down. The amount of resources expended in here is tough, but finding a play at this point is worth it.
Yeah, Jax is going to have teleport. Sasa will not, so Sasa needs to keep Jax underneath this turret. Like you said, a lot used during that. Climber, no flash, and no ultimate from this mid-jungle of LGD. Imagine that it's just going to be them cycling through, maybe buys them a little bit of time, and most importantly, I think, stops JDG from immediately ripping this objective. Scout will have teleport and is going to be respawning in a few seconds time here. Porky's going to have first move. Can they make a play on this roll?
Eclipse completely busted ability, by the way.
Yep.
Damn. Shro just gets to live through anything that they could have thrown at him for a few seconds, and absolutely works in JDG's favor because the stall is enough for Scout to teleport back up into the top side, and now you've got a pretty even numbers fight. LGD, remember, having expended so much to put only Cosmic Radiance, and XQW doesn't even get it. YCX the next focus. The Savior has popped up into the top side, but looking still quite good for Shun as he circles back around going, you sure? Savior, do you want the chomp? Xiaoshu shows up, gives him the smack, and Pays in the mid lane, maybe not having as good of a time, will go down, but Sasu falls as well. So 1 for 1 in the mid lane, and in the top side, it's just a JDG win.
Yeah, it's a 3-for-1 trade. I think even with Pays dying in mid lane, yeah, I gotta say, mathematically speaking, it's pretty work.
Yeah,
That's kills going over, those are summoner spells being burnt by the opponents, and now another objective here as JDG got the first turret, they got all 3 of the first objectives, they got the first 3 kills of the game. I am struggling to see a situation here where JDG at all find windows to lose this one.
We did see the compositional hope of LGD for just a second around the top side. They do have some pretty incredible ability to lock one person down and say, sorry, not today. If around these side lanes they can find picks, I'm not going to say that'll get them enough of a way back into the game, but it'll certainly give them a better chance of being able to play the macro game with the numbers.
Hey, look
This
at
a great example, but again, Shuo with the Eclipse, busted ability, gets to live through all of that. No Cosmic Radiance available just yet. It means that LGD have to fight this out with their raw health bars. Exhaust is going to go down onto Pays, and Pays will fall. Numbers advantage secured by LGD. Shun being chased down now as well means that Scout's got to come in from the side and save the day. He and Xiaoshu clean up the back line, while Sasu is still looking for Shun, and granted, might find him.
Oh, wait, he's
Hold
getting
on.
so much healing. Subjugate, and the lockdown.
And he lives.
Mr. Rhino gives him the last bit of HP. It is 14-4. I think we gotta say it now. They're gonna spawn Herald in mid lane. It is looking like a shutout here. JDG want to prove that the only teams coming out of Group Nirvana are gonna be EDG and they're gonna be NIP.
This is the next step for JDG. We did talk about them finding their comfort style at the start of the day. Now that we're seeing the early success and unquestionably pile up for JDG, after 3 games of watching them play, what is that comfort style looking like for you? What are we expecting to take from the series into the rest of playoffs?
I think a lot of why we saw JDG succeed, especially in their last 2 series, the ones back-to-back against Weibo, what we saw is when Xiaoshu is cut out of a game, this team lacks direction. And while this Jax is very, very powerful, the solo lanes are really, I think, making a huge difference here in this series. We have spent a lot of time talking about Scout and XQW, but again, Xiaoshu on this Jax, and in particular, the different impacts we've seen from them so far throughout this series and throughout the year has really made it so that this team is incredibly solo lane focused. You could say what you want about having a carry jungler in Shun. You could talk about Pays having to be a secondary carry for this lineup, but push comes to shove, what we've seen so far in Split 3, it is all around Xiaoshu and Scout.
Even with Shun being backed into a corner there, it is ultimately Xiaoshu and Scout to come back and save him. Now Shun frontlining for that same backline. XQW does commit, might even find the kill onto Scout here, but the burst is enough out of this Aurora to take him down. Not losing a single person. JDG, clean house on the top side, set up for whatever they would like. There's no objective here, but it may just be the next couple champion kills. Shun gets a little too close to Savior, goes down! We're throwing.
Yes, guys, this is the one kill. This will save us. It's coming back. We're coming back from a 7,000 gold lead at 19.5 minutes. And if you want to be able to clean out those gold leads, if you want to be able to punish your opponents like the pros do, you can go ahead and take a look at our sponsor, prodiff. We have a code for them, an LPL 10 to save 10% off, and this is for one-on-one coaching with a variety of different professionals coming in from the ERLs, the NACL, and current LTA professionals. So if you want to get access, you want to see how to snowball leads like JDG, you might be able to tap in on our sponsor.
If you're able to play like they are this game, it'll be well worth it. Watching JDG win this, even with an immortal XQW in their backline, this is the dream for LGD. And even their dream is not quite enough.
Let's just be clear. The Yone has not really gone off to the best start. Remember, getting solo kills early on. What we talked about from draft, part of the reason why we've seen this combo work so many times across the league, but in specific for LGD, is seeing that synergy between Climber and XQW. 2 players that were brought up from LGD's youth team and won the LDL just last year, but not seeing it this game, and really a disconnect between these two, leading into more and more troubles here against JDG.
Is maybe getting caught out again. This time, though, does have Flash and Cleanse up, so will not be a replay of last team fight on our screens. Gets away, and this is where things get really difficult. When Pace has Flash and Cleanse up, when the escape tools are available for JDG, making a play for LGD is that much harder, and they've got to do it around Otacon. Sasu gets into the front line, but whoa, just takes up a lot of time. Triple man stun out of the counter-strike, and in comes Scout with a nice bit of damage. Keeps everybody from LGD in the same space. This is a tighter fight for JDG, and one that they are still able to come out on top of. Savior backing off, does immense amount of damage, but the pain of being pillared is going to cost him. Gets chomped, gets taken out. It's a triple kill for Pays, and JDG return to the game state that they know and love, dominating the enemy jungle, and this time taking the Otacon.
That was really close because if you're sitting around Otacon, it is shredding your resistances the entire time. And that was a very tricky spot for them to find that. If that goes even slightly more in LGD's favor, imagine they take that objective. We can take a look at this one more time. Dwo immediately burst it out. As soon as they come over, that's the Dwo we know and love. Maybe a little hate watching there. But this stun from Xiaoshu on the 3 members sets up this between worlds. And right here, I gotta say, this is where it gets a little dicey. Not only does XQW miss out on the Q3, but this Otacon is ripping away at JDG. But I think the gold lead is just too much at this point. When we come back to live, I really want to focus on mid lane. He's going to have the Otacon completed, which gives him more adaptive force, more experience. This is going to essentially be a 5,000 to 6,000 gold lead in the mid lane alone.
Yeah, this game of all of them has been the one where Scout's impact is most evident to me because of his ability to impact the team fight on a large scale. And we're going to see that once again. Waiting on the between worlds to be popped, and out it goes in the middle of the Cosmic Radiant. Scout is zipping around the battlefield, this time setting Pays up for a double kill, and it is LGD being maybe not so gently reminded that this game, this jungle is not theirs. It is a quadra kill for Pays, and they are looking for the penta. Climber doesn't want to give it to him, but he knows. Oh no! Scout, what are we doing?
And you know what's the best part? There has been 3 separate pieces of content from voice columns of JDG members taking the pentakill away from Pays, which is, I think, ultimately the best way for them to end this. This is, I think, his 3rd penta potentially stolen from him. I know Shun almost got one earlier and Pays stole it in one of their last series, so unfortunate, and they were really, really squeezing for that objective there. JDG are going to get even more gold, and this just feels like we are doing last moment flourishes before we send this team off the playoffs.
I mean, Climber even gave it to him.
Yep. That's a scorch diff right there. Okay. Look back at this fight. We were talking about it. Was the Cosmic Radiance going to do enough? No. But is Tarek really to blame when the rest of your team is so far behind because you have no damage to be able to do this? And then the rest of this fight, I think, pretty easy. Xiaoshu, again, this Jax is so powerful against this team. All right. Let's hit the slow-mo LPL observers. I need to see it. Let's get the Scorch Frost. Yep, there it is.
No.
Thank you, Scout. Love you, buddy.
Climber even stopping for it, and then it not going right. It's even more tough. I think that, especially after having watched the conclusion of that team fight, LGD are no longer in denial about what is going on in this game.
Oh yeah.
If Climber is S-keying on the turret, they know that this is a formality, and the next couple of minutes should be expedited by the fact that now we've got a Baron on the menu, and Baron is very, very good at closing out games when you can take fights. Fights like JDG can take fights.
Okay, so now, Dia, here comes the fun part. Because JDG are so ahead, the Baron's going to give them 1,500 gold. Yeah. They're already almost 1,200 or 12,000 gold ahead of their opponents. Yeah. So imagine goes up to 14. They're also going to be able to take over these last couple turrets. Do you think we're going to get a 20k gold? We've been getting them a little bit more recently. Maybe if they decide to give a triple kill over to Xiaoshu.
I mean, I could absolutely see it. Xiaoshu wins this fight, right?
Maybe not 4v5. Scout.
Oh, wait. He's got some assistance. Xiaoshu at least living for now. Counter-strikes and gets away the flash to take him out of the Tarek stun as well. Scout is here to back him up. Xiaoshu recommits into the counter-strike, finds another stun, is still alive! JDG are styling on him!
Oh my god, let's go! Solo lanes on JDG. They're gonna look to put the finishing touches on this game. 30-7. Soul be damned. Let's get this over with.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have the time to hit 20k at this point. YCX will fall. JDG completely undaunted in this third game. First game was close. Second game was closer. Third game, JDG send themselves into the playoffs and up for a chance at redemption.
Oh, man. That's tough. That last fight is very fun. If you're a JDG member, you're having fun. LGD, you kind of got styled on in that last part. But with a gold lead like that, I can't imagine you're going to be expecting much else. Congratulations to JDG for making it into the playoffs. I think not an unexpected result coming into tonight, but with the form that we have seen from them, anything is possible. There was always a miracle chance here for LGD to make some upsets happen.
Yeah, this was a nice start to the series. Game 1, Game 2. I mean, Game 1 actually really taking me by surprise because there I very much felt like there was a draft disadvantage from LGD, and yet they still had an advantage in the middle of the game. So that was very cool to watch happen, especially after the 0-3 predictions that were coming to JDG.
Yeah, and the thing I want to say for LGD is, yes, I've been hampering on mid lane. We've been talking about some of the weaknesses of this team, but a reminder, not only are they a Group Nirvana team, but this team unable to find another win outside of Split 1 in a best of 5. And for the experience or lack thereof on this squad, I think does kind of speak to their performance here. If we're talking about positives to take away for LGD as we say goodbye to them for one last time here in 2025, it is that I think that we did get some growth from some of these players. I think that Savior and YCX showed that earlier on into the year that they could actually toe the line against some of our better teams. And Sasa, I think, is an interesting enough top laner that some teams should be willing to maybe take a look or take a try on. The thing I'm probably the most disappointed about in this team is Climber. Not just in this series, but his storyline throughout this whole year was winning LDL in 2024, coming onto this lineup, getting a year worth of experience, but all of that is cut short by LGD bringing Nio in the middle of Split 2, and that team looking remarkably better with that player on. So not only do you have to come back into this team as, hey, I got benched for the last time, but now I have to take back this spot, but I think it was valuable game time that could have been spent potentially producing a better player like this, but in chase of wins is what LGD were looking for.
Yeah, this was a difficult year for LGD, especially with the instability that they experienced during Split 2. I think that ultimately you are still taking this as, this is your first year, you make it to the play-ins in Split 3. Sure, it's not anything stellar. This isn't going to be, they were a prodigy from a young age and they came up and rose up and took the LPL, but it's still going to be a natural beginning of what is likely going to be some very nice careers in the LPL. Again, depending on where these teams go and what teams see strengths in the individual players, because we certainly got glimpses of those throughout the year. Very, very impressive day from them. And again, I really want to emphasize that across Game 1 and Game 2, the game advantage states that they found themselves in are games that I think with more experience, with more game time, perhaps with more roster stability, we see them closing those out and taking us to a longer series.
Either that or they got to get some better coaching staff, guys. I'm sorry to 1874. I don't think I saw too much development outside of multiple plays. I don't think we got like a very set identity. And I think a lot of the troubles for this roster ended up coming in earlier into the year, where I just remember a Caitlyn game from Savior, who he was trying his damnedest and his team let him down. There is a Draven game where he's the only person, he's 1v3 and he's actually winning fights, but it's just not enough. Something happens in mid lane, XQW sends a Realm Warp and kills himself right before an Elder. Like, too many mid-game macro decisions that end up punching back at LGD, and I think we saw that in parts of this series, where you look at their opponents, not a clean series from JDG early on, but something that we did note as they got further into the series, I think they got a lot more comfortable and they got to feel themselves out and mostly feel what their opponents were putting down.
So I am expecting, this is not radical, this is probably a Scout MVP.
Oh, yeah.
My question to you is, this has been a difficult split, a difficult year for Scout.
Yeah.
Did this series, where he displayed remarkable consistency, we praised him across 3 games, actually end up assuaging any of your fears going into playoffs?
I think slightly. The difference is that, like, he's playing against XTW. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like, XQW had multiple situations where he misplayed, especially in these last two games. Game 1, much more playable. But Game 2, like, the Talia was essentially non-existent. Game 3, he gets solo killed level 3 by the Aurora as on his comfort champion Yone, which we V1, by the way. So typically when you're first picking a champion, you have to, that champion is one where you're not only confident that you're going to blind, but you have to have some amount of impact. You're going to be a big player in that team.
Yeah.
That was not what we got from XQW. And there were moments here where I think Scout showed a little bit of that slide in form that we've seen from him, but the enemy team wasn't able to punish those mistakes. And we got a good, overall, I agree. We got a great performance from Scout. It's, I think, hard to calibrate when you look at the opponents that they're going up against.
It's completely understandable. I don't think that it's necessarily the case, and it's even an unlikely case that a single series would make you go, oh, okay, everything is fixed.
Yeah.
But a good thing to check in on, especially because that's the next step for JDG, is solving a lot of the problems that they experienced during this split, during this year, because it was always anticipated coming into today that this is a stepping stone for them, that they must be this tall to ride, and now they have to be even taller in order to get to Worlds and beyond.
Thankfully for JDG, they have so much name power on their team that I think going into play-ins or playoffs, they're going to be in a much easier position. The issue that I'm now kind of coming to grasp with is we have now finished our play-ins. We know all 4 teams that are going to fill in the last 4 of our top 8 teams going into playoffs. The other 2 teams, so looking from standings, Top Esports and IG are going to have first pick as to which opponents they want to go up against. And obviously, in descending order, all of our teams will choose. Actually, this would be a perfect time to go to our playoff bracket. So in order from left to right, Top Esports most likely is going to pick either Ninjas of Pajamas or Edward Gaming.
Sure.
IG will then choose the next player, or the next, Nirvana team other than the one that Top Esports chose. Then IG and BLG, or AL and BLG, will get the last picks of those last 2 remaining teams. And if I'm AL as the third, or if I'm BLG as the third team, I'm probably picking JDG. So this could be very one-sided starts to playoffs that leads our first round of playoffs to be not super exciting in my mind.
I mean, in a way, designed that way. Designed,
Sure.
To let the teams who have succeeded previously also get some nice wins in the first round. It would be nice to see some upsets, but realistically, the hope for a lot of these squads, even having made it in through play-ins, is going to be realistically moving into the lower bracket.
Correct.
Yeah.
Especially when we look at our Group Nirvana teams. Ninjas of Pajamas and Edward Gaming took down opponents that were struggling throughout Split 3. WE and FPX were essentially near winless teams outside of facing each other. And especially for FPX, they barely won any games throughout most of the season. They're like 11-30. So a very tough season for them. And so how both of our Nirvana teams are really going to shake out in the bottom half of the bracket is pretty interesting. We have our MVP coming on through. Please say it's Scout. Yes, it is.
Nice.
Okay. So aside from the Shun one that we saw in Game 1, the votes have been relatively tame.
I gotta rewatch that VOD.
Maybe we were just Shun hating.
Maybe.
I don't want to do that because we have another fan of the show, 1010. She is a very big fan of this JDG roster. And so typically when we do some Shun hate, it's a little sad. She usually understands.
You know what? Sorry. Shun hate, which was non-existent, aside. I didn't... Normally when I watch JDG games, at some point I'm going, Shwo, huh? That didn't happen. I mean, yeah.
There was that fight on top side where he like got the Leona at the very end towards Otacon.
Yeah.
Where he kind of just instantly died.
That was Otacon though.
Yeah, that was Otacon diff. I agree.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I think we've been getting better games from Shwo.
Yeah.
Which I think is really important.
I think it's I'm also, similar to a Scout situation where you've got to balance against who you're playing against, but being on the same page as your team. And I'm extending this a little bit more because I also saw a little bit more coordination between he and the rest of the squad against Weibo a few days ago. So the fact that he was able to also not be on a completely different page from the team today, pretty good sign.
All right, we're getting towards the end of our show. Obviously, a very quick night with a 3-0. Before we do all of our closing out stuff, Dia, I want to thank you for being on the show tonight and getting a guest spot. Tell the people where they can find you and what you're up to.
Oh, I mean, they can find me, I suppose, at Esports Dia on X. That's what they call it now. And
all right, never mind. You call it X. We're getting try that again. We're gonna try this again.
You can find me at Esports Dia on Twitter, and I think on everything. Sure. And then I mean, I don't want to plug other esports.
No,
I do
it's
other
okay
esports.
For an unofficial broadcast. You can. This is the perfect time to do it. This is probably the only time you're going to be able to talk about Apex.
All right. Well, I do cast an insane amount of Apex Legends, and I occasionally observe for Deadlock.
Oh, nice.
Fun.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Maybe I'll be back here. Who knows?
There you
we
go.
Run LTA South. Watch LTA South.
It was so funny. Actually, this is going to be a small aside. We did our whole thing about like LPL English. And someone said, wow, I wish there was something like this for LTA South.
Oh my god.
I remember pinging you about this too.
I didn't comment on it because I was like, me commenting on it can only be like me getting rage baited. But like we have an English broadcast for LTA South.
And it's existed way longer than this broadcast.
We've run it like 5 years. Watch the LTA South. It's not... We're not going to be beating LPL teams anytime soon, but we're very fun. We're very fun.
All right, well, a reminder, this is our last night before we go into playoffs. Our next match is going to be that top 8 double elim best of 5 starting on September 7th. You do not have to wake up at a degenerate time to watch these games tomorrow, September 7th. You have a little bit of time here. You can go watch the LCK regionals that they're playing, and they also have LTA South and LTA North games happening soon. That's really funny. As we finish out our broadcast, I want to give a huge shout out to our elite coffee supporters, Aaron Mung, Forest Without, no, what? Give me the, no, it's Aaron Soup, Mung, Owners of Silmaril, and Forest Without. I got it right. I'm usually never the one that has to make, give me the read. Go to the Ross. You just are sitting there, my producer. Thank you. Their pledged financial contributions help level up the broadcast and give back to the cast and crew who strive to give you an LPL English product every single day. All right.
Thank you.
We made it. This is the end of our broadcast. Thank you to everybody from not only our staff here, Ilya on production, all of our moderators and people on socials, to the people watching the stream. The LPL English unofficial product is unbelievably supported by the fans, making a lot of opportunities happen that otherwise we would not have access to. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you in a couple days' time for Split 3 playoffs.